Yeah.
So this is our week 3 check-in, I believe. We're gonna have to think of a new intro and outro because this is our podcast officially. We made our podcast channel this last week.
Welcome to Pins and Paperbacks.
Yes, welcome to Pins and Paperbacks. So we officially decided that this November one is going to be our first video on our Pins and Paperbacks YouTube channel. I am still wrestling with the podcast side on my side of things, but that's a whole nother thing. So we'll figure that out. Hopefully,
I've officially turned one of my YouTube channels into a reading channel, so I haven't actually posted anything yet.
Hey, that's the first step.
That's a thing.
Honestly, I remember checking in personally, but I don't remember. Oops, I didn't mean to slide that. I was I
did a check-in earlier this morning.
After I don't remember what you and I checked in. I don't think I've told you that I finished Pages of Promise, which was the first one.
I've been following your progress on Goodreads, so I saw that you were really close to finishing it, so I figured you were going to finish it at some point.
Yeah, actually it's been 2 days ago or something like that, and
cool. I was going to say, you were at school when I saw that check-in, so I figured you had finished it pretty quick.
Yeah, so it's been a couple of days, and then that night I kind of I filmed my review, filmed my check-in for this channel, so kind of shared my thoughts a little bit. I wanted to save some specific ones with you, but then that night I was like, you know what, I'm bored. I started reading the next one, which is called Searching for Peace, because that was the last one on my TBR list outside of The Heart of Christmas, which I'm editing and I'm almost done with. So I figured, and this one's I'm doing that in my own timing, so I figured it's okay to kind of I finished my TBR list, technically. Not officially, but, whatever. So I started reading Searching for Peace, the second one, and I'm already 34% of the way through it. And it's been 2 days. So my camera blurred again. So I don't know why my camera
does that. It was crystal clear on your Kindle, though.
Yeah, it's just my face. You guys don't need to see my face anyway. So yeah, I liked it. It ended up being a 4-star read for me. So there were some times when my biggest critiques was sometimes the romance, it would be seeing him filled me with desire, or it was mostly his perspective that did that. So it was trying to kind of imply affection and spice without actually being spicy. But the thing is, it just didn't really fit with his character because of who he is and his personality. But there were other times when it was she would move and he saw her and he wanted to hug her and just hold her and wish all of the bad things away. And that fits with his character. And to me, affection done in an emotional capacity fits better. It was kind of minor. It didn't really take me out of it. It was done a few times. It just felt forced and convoluted, and I did make note. Because apparently now that I can take notes, my editing brain won't shut off. So that's a whole nother deal. I felt like the pacing in it was really good, much better than the Cyclone one that I read last month. Hey, there, it cleared. Much better than the Cyclone one I said cleared, but I was thinking camera. I'm tired. I have no brain. Last month, because it was there were several times when it was they were talking about God or something emotional, and there wouldn't even be an alert, and it would just jolt you right into the action. Oh, there's a red dot on her chest, and he dove to her, and oh my God, they're being shot at. I didn't, and I actually got this advice from someone that said, when you're writing, if you're doing a regular scene and then something happens, don't use the word suddenly, because that kind of ruins the surprise of suddenly they jumped out of nowhere, Yeah, and so she doesn't use the word suddenly, and so I feel like she's a pro at just jolting you into the action. And for some people that may be jolting, but for me, I love that kind of stuff.
You've always liked that kind of sudden, intense action, all of a sudden.
Yeah, and so
that's something that you've always kind of been into.
Yeah, so the action was really good. She handled the military guys really well, the mindset, all that stuff. The Christian message and the Christian themes were really good. The suspenseful plot line was really good, and it honestly, I was thinking it was going to be her ex-husband. Oh, spoiler alerts, I suppose. Minor spoilers. But I was thinking, it's totally her ex-boyfriend. This is so obvious. And there was three twists thrown in there that I didn't see coming, and I was wrong. So that was really fun. The twists were good. It is one of those things where it's kind of happy ending wrapped up in a nice little bow, which is fine. It's a Christian thing. And it's not I don't want it to end happily, but I'm just saying it was
I get perfect. That though.
But I actually, when I started the second book, Searching for Peace, I love this one even more. Like, I was immediately drawn in there. So first of all, Elijah is the main character. He was a side character in the first one, so we already know a little bit about Elijah. And the premise is so fun. So first of all, it opens with the main this woman, this grandmother, dying. So he's at her funeral, and she kind of like took him in, and he would help her around the house and things. Because it's not his actual grandmother, but it's kind of like she kind of took him, like adopted him, and he helped her out because she was just old and her husband died, and she's dead. He's dying, so it's her funeral basically. But her granddaughter shows up, and her granddaughter has left town and like wasn't around for the last few years of her life, so he hates the granddaughter because it's like, how dare you not come see your grandmother. But the grief really hit me hard, and it's written really well, so it's definitely grief heavy, and it reminded me a lot of, like, you know, grandma Mimi when she died. And so I was like, yeah, I kind of relate to this stuff too much. Like, she was cleaning out her grandmother's stuff at one point, and I was like, oh yeah, because we just did that with Mimi's stuff, and so it was like really hard. But the fun premise is that this grandma is such a troll. She left the house in both of their names, so they're co-owners of the house, and they can't do anything until they agree. Oh, that's funny. And they hate each other because in her mind, he's just a guy one of those guys who preys upon older women, helps them out, and kind of mooches them for everything that they have. And in his mind, she has not been in touch with her grandmother, hasn't come by to see her when she was in the hospital. A selfish girl that wants so they hate each other. Like, this is even worse than the other one. So on top of the suspenseful plot line, and then the grandmother left her letters, and so she's reading through these letters from her grandmother that I think is probably going to tie into the mystery somehow. And then we also get flashback scenes with the grandmother and him and kind of their moments together. And like one time it was like Valentine's Day, and they were joking, and he's like, he joked about how she could be his date and how he's not interested in a relationship. And it's just, they have, and it's cute because, like, you know, the grandmother's dead, but it's like the kind of woman that she was. It's like, so I'm in love with the story. I'm 34% of the way through it, and it's the second book in that series. So I'm having fun reading it. So cool. And then The Heart of Christmas, like I said, I'm making tons of progress. I didn't edit yesterday, but I've noticed that I do better if I skip a couple days and then I just binge a couple. Like, I edit 2 or 3 at one time. So I have probably, I don't know, I want to say 10 stories left. I don't know how many I've got, but this much. So cool. I'm making progress. I hope to finish it this week. That'd be good. Yeah, that'd be good. Did I finish Empire Storms when we did our last? That's the thing, I can't remember. The last one? I thought we did. I can't remember. Well, like, I actually wrote my full review. Okay. I posted it on my blog and then on Goodreads as well. And I could probably give a basic kind of overview. I give it 4 stars. 4 stars. Which isn't the lowest book that I've rated the series. The first one I give a 3. Okay. Just because it, coming off of Assassin's Blade, it felt very slow. Yeah. And it just felt like it was one event dragged on for an entire book, but yet it wasn't always super detailed about all the parts of the event, like all the different steps and the component, like different, like, because there was like key things that would happen in this main event thing that would happen, but it just kind of felt, I don't know, it didn't felt super detailed and very discreet. Like, I don't know, I just wasn't latching onto it. And then I always forget the names. Queen of Shadow, I think, was a 4-star, and then Heir of Fire and Crown of Midnight is book 2. That one I got a 4-star. Heir of Fire was a 5. Queen of Shadows was a 5. And I went into this one, and I think I just kind of got, I don't know, the more I read it, the more I was, like, the less I was reading it for the main character, and the more I was reading it for the side characters. I felt like the main character felt really stagnant in this book. Yeah. It just, she wasn't losing progress, but she wasn't losing growth, but she wasn't gaining any character growth, if that makes any sense. Yeah. And it's like, I just saw the same things happen. Like, she would make the same type of decisions, and then it's like, there's 2 separate instances where she made the same type of decision and had the same outcome. And it's like, and then we're swapping POVs constantly, and I'm getting all these other side characters, and
this buddying romances between these different characters, which I wasn't a big fan of. I think this is the point in Sarah's writing where she started throwing in like sex scenes and stuff, because there was a couple of those thrown in with character. One of the characters kind of made sense coming from the character that it came from. And that was the one that we got. But it's like there was a couple others. Like there's one particular pair that I was like, these two side characters that were slowly falling in love. And it was like this morally gray character that like needs some love. And he was slowly getting love and like falling in love with this gentle but yet not gentle at heart girl. And it's like, oh my gosh. And I love it so much. And then it's like, the side characters, I was like falling in love with him. And that was why I got back into reading it, is because I love these side characters. And it's like, there was times where it almost felt like entitlement was an issue. Like, and I think it's just because of the character's lack of experience in that a higher up position. I think that's probably why it came off that way. And it's probably intentional, I imagine. But it's like the ending of the book, I could definitely tell that I was supposed to be sad with the main character and what ends up happening. But it's like all I could do was get really frustrated because a lot of like these relationships that are buddying are suddenly just like fractured. And I'm like, like you got me excited for these characters only for them to just like 2 out of the 3 pairs just aren't even.
I don't want to know too much.
I know, I'm not saying who, so you'll have to figure that out for yourself. And considering you're struggling to get through the first one, I imagine you'll probably forget by that point.
Probably. I like going into a book or a series not knowing too much of anything, because sometimes I figure things out soon, and it kind of like with certain books, it's kind of like you pick up on things if you know ahead of time. So it's like, oh, this is going to be that, that kind of plot line and stuff. But yeah, I'm glad you were able to finish reading it, though.
The side characters were too good for me to give it a 3-star.
Yeah, no, I understand.
That's where I'm at. But it didn't meet the standard that I saw in, because coming back from like Queen of Shadows, like there was a huge amount of growth with her and the main character, and it was like kind of like coming to terms with her past, so to speak, in a way. And I'm like, I love this. It's so much growth. And then it's just like this whole book, she's just anyway, it's just I was disappointed. And starting this one, we're not even like, so far we're not even getting any of that character. Like she's not even listed in the back blurb. Right. And I'm like enjoying it. And it's like a completely new area. So we're learning about like this whole new continent that I kind of just forgot existed. And there's this character that showed up that was a part of an earlier book that I completely forgot about. And it's like, she just like, and we never knew what happened to this character. And she just randomly shows up in this book. And I'm like, oh, there you are. That's what happened to you. That's funny. So I'm enjoying it. And it's like, I have a feeling this is going to make me not hate one particular character, and I'm excited. I'm excited for it. Yeah, I did a lot of listening. I did a lot of audiobook listening today because I had a lot of cleaning to do. But yeah, I've also been trying to update and actually get my reviews typed out and posted for the ACOTAR series. Because I've had thoughts about the different books for a long time, and so I kind of jotted down what my thoughts were at that point, and so I'm trying to work on typing them in. I got to thinking, and I don't know if was there anything you wanted to before I start blabbing about ACOTAR. Is there anything where you want to mention beforehand? Yeah, or anything you had on your list? Pages of Promise.
One thing, it's like making me not really question my own writing or whatever. Just analyzing my own writing, oh, am I doing this okay? But the idea of the first guy, Lance, in the first book is actually very different from Elijah, now that we're getting Elijah's perspective. Because Lance was I told you that in one of our check-ins, that he was the guy who goes around helping out, and he talks to everybody, and everybody knows him and loves him, and that's what made her uneasy about him. Well, Elijah is the introvert who, he was actually wounded more. They all 3 of the guys were on the same deployment, and their whole team died, and they all all went through it, but
Yeah.
they have different perspectives about what they went through.
What
and so
happened,
Elijah was one that was hurt. I think the first book hints that
Okay.
he was blown up pretty bad, but in this one they haven't mentioned anything about scars or anything, but that's, so I don't know if that's going to be a thing. But either way, he comes off to me as a realist, so he comes off a lot more negative than Lance, kind of like that darker sense of humor. And so he just doesn't tolerate people very well. He's an introvert, and he really hates the girl, and she really hates him, and like his bitter attitude is like so different from Lance. But for some reason it's like, oh, the really good guy who reminds me of my husband, but like I'm actually really loving Elijah because I love the brooding negative dudes, you know what I mean? And so I just really like that. Like I want to make sure that like in my series, like I've written the two guys differently so far, but it's really good. And
sounds like she's doing a really good job of making them very unique characters.
And
like
they're not very
all
different.
like a cookie cutter.
Yeah.
You know.
And stuff. And then
really good.
and then I can't remember the family thing with him. I think he doesn't have any family. Lance had parents, and so you got to see his dynamic with his family, whereas Elijah's parents died. He was raised by his grandmother. His grandmother died, and so that's why he got really close to Edna, the grandmother in this one, is because it reminded him of his grandmother. But yeah, it's really good. So far, I was trying to think. My mind went blank. But yeah, I really enjoy it. And the weird thing is, like, I was in the contemporary, like, military mood when I was reading Cyclone, and I had to shift gears to read The Serpents and the Wings of Night. So I read that, got into that universe and in a fantasy mood, and it was jolting, and it took me a bit to get into Pages of Promise, and then I finally got into it. And so I'm like, I'm just, right now, since I have the rest of November, I can read what I want. I'm going to maybe go ahead and read as much of this series as I can, because I don't want to have to switch genres and switch moods to go back to fantasy, just to go back to contemporary again. So I'm gonna wait. I'm still excited for The Serpent and the Wings of Night, and then the novella between them, like that series basically. I'm excited for those. And the Ash one, I can't remember the fourth, From Blood and Ash, From Blood and Ash, and Bloodguard. I'm so excited for all those books, so I'm thinking those are all going to be on my December one. But I'm just really, I don't want to switch gears right now. And by the way, because we had talked about, we didn't know for sure whether it was going to help or hinder my mood with my writing. It kind of helped. So it kind of helped, like, my inspiration level. So but yeah, that's pretty much it. So ACOTAR, and then the next thing that I wanted to bring up was Onyx Storm, a little bit like theories and different things. So, all right, ACOTAR, your ACOTAR stuff.
Okay. So I've been currently working, like, I have like when I recycle paper, I cut, like, if it's one-sided, I'll just divide it into 4 and make like these little paper things that I just jot notes on. So like my Wings and Ruin review was all in paper. Oh my gosh. Like scratch notes. But I was doing, because that one, it was Wings and Ruin and the novella for Austin Starlight that I hadn't actually written a review on. And I had written out Wings and Ruin, no problem. I know. And that's where I'm like, I am so behind. Like, there's like reviews from 2023 that I still haven't put to my blog yet. So it's like, I'm going to be doing it. Like, I have them called, like, it's reviews and recaps. And so I'm legit just going to be posting old reviews to my blog for a while and then inserting new ones as I go. But
real quick, are you doing like a weekly, like once a week, or are you doing every day, or what's your? I just random.
Whenever I feel like it.
Okay, I didn't know if you had like a schedule. All right.
At that point, it's like there's sometimes when, like, because to be honest, later this week I have to buy food for Food Labs, and then I have eighth grade, 2 classes of 8th grade and 7th grade all cooking at the same time, and that's like 4 kitchens all cooking the same thing at the same time each hour. So it's like Friday and Thursday is going to be planning and then labs. So it's like, it's going to be a mess. So I probably won't do it. Couldn't even like think about making any kind of reviews then. So it'd probably be just kind of when I can get stuff in, but I want to be better about not going. Cause like I had went, the last update I did, it was funny. I updated in May because I posted The Queen's Shadow, which is that one of the books about Padme, which is really intriguing, by the way. I loved that read because it put like a lot of like background, like behind the scenes with her handmaidens and stuff. Yes, that one. Like it's honestly, it's really intriguing. Like I enjoyed it because it put a lot more context into how Naboo culture kind of works.
Yeah, I started it.
It was really interesting
And never finished it. So
yeah,
I was
it's really interesting.
Literally right there next to me. So I was like,
it's not like super action packed, but it's like if you're a hardcore Star Wars fan and you like behind the scenes stuff on how things work, that one's a really cool one to read. Yeah, but I read that. I posted that review in May of 2023. And then I hadn't posted anything until I posted an update that was called "I'm Not Dead" smiley face in August of this year. And I hadn't posted anything else until 2 days ago, where I just put update.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Then I posted my Empire Storms review that same day. So I'm like, I want to be more consistent and not wait like a year at a time in between when I post things.
Yeah.
Because I have like 14 different posts on my blog so far, so it's like decent at the moment. Like it's okay. My nephew keeps inviting me to Among Us VR. Kate, I'm not playing Among Us VR. Anyway, sorry, I got very distracted.
You're fine.
I've gotten like 3 notifications to join a Among Us VR game, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. Anyway, so I was looking at Akatar. We're focused. All right, so I got to thinking, because I know I was trying, when I'm writing these reviews, I want it to be my initial thoughts for that book and not my overall book thoughts of the series now that I finished Silver Flames.
That's the hard part about going back.
When I was reading, and it's like when I was reading Wings and Ruin, I was intrigued about Nesta, but I was definitely irritated, and so I definitely voiced that in my review at some point. That I was like, I'm not sure how to feel about Nesta. She irritates me, and her attitude is just ugly. So I feel like Nesta has potential and could lead to something more if she would just get a better attitude. And so like that, I kind of went on a little bit there too, but it's like, I was definitely intrigued at Nesta, but I definitely she really irritated me because she just, you know how it's like somebody may be outwardly a very beautiful person, but their attitude just makes them very ugly on the inside. Yeah, and it's like that's the kind of character that Nesta gave off early on for me.
Yeah.
And so it's like I was kind of looking, and so when I was writing my Frost and Starlight review, the novella, something like one thing that kept like I remember when I was reading that book, one thing, because like when I read, there's times where like if I feel like the character is really like lonely or feels left out, or if I would feel like there's times where I'll get like overwhelming emotions for one thing or another, like if it's overly sad, like if a character is extremely sad, I'll get sad for them. And you might see my lights flash. They've been flashing off and on today. I don't know what that's all about, but and like there's at one point, because Nesta essentially, she bribes her to go, like, spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't read this, which if you haven't read it by now and it's been all over Book Talk, then it's kind of on your fault. But like they essentially, Feyre like bribes her with money to come to this celebration. And then it's like, once she gets there, like Nesta just kind of sits there. You know, I'd say, have you ever been like invited to a group, like a person's house or a group like a party, but they're not your normal crowd that you hang out with, and you can definitely tell you don't fit in with that group, but you've still been invited, so you just kind of sit there and chill, and you don't really say a whole lot.
100%.
Like, you interact if you're being interacted with, and like that's literally how she was. Like the entire time, she didn't make any snarky comments. She didn't start insulting people. She just kind of sat there because nobody else made an effort to include her in anything. Except for Elaine, you know, and then I got to looking and I got to thinking, why did Feyre push for her to come to this party when I don't even think she ever got her a gift? Like, I even put this in my review. I'm like, I don't care how much I hate somebody. If I'm going to invite them to like somewhere like a party where I know people are going to be getting gifts, I'm going to at least get them something, even if it's just like a gift card or some like money or like the bride money. Put it in some kind of gift. Put it in like a book or something. Get her a book and stick the bride money in the book. Makes it look like a gift, you know, like a card or something. And it's like, I don't know. The more I thought about that, the more that bothered me. And then we switched to Cassian's point of view. I see a lot of different
sides to it because
switched to Cassian's point of view. And he acts like she's just completely insulted them. But like from her perspective, she was just kind of sitting there. She was just kind of being taking up space there.
I definitely understand where that's coming from because I'm usually a third wheel. Anytime I go anywhere, like I always end up being the awkward person who doesn't participate because I'm like, you gotta initiate things with me first because I'm shy. But one, Nesta isn't really, she never comes off as a shy person, so she never needs to be that person that you have to like initiate things first, like me or you, where you got to talk to us first, and then we'll probably, for me, I'll open up to you, and we're fine. But on the other hand, I think sometimes it's all just about being there and being amongst your family as opposed to like coming for a certain reason. And other times I've heard a lot of people argue the other side of things in other situations where it's like, well, I was there, like you never, talked to me or whatever. But it's like, well, you're welcome to interact or talk with us. Like nobody's stopping you from talking, just talk, that kind of thing. So I've heard both sides, and like for me, like I try to interact and interject, like so I kind of get the other side of it. But with Nesta in particular, she because I remember this was before I liked her because it was before Silver Flames. So for me, it came off as like she's not really wanting to get involved. She's really grumpy with everybody and kind of like the Scrooge of the group, where it's like the humbug, where she doesn't want to talk and everything. So it's like to me, she came off as like standoffish and kind of unapproachable. Yeah, but I kind of understand both sides on that.
And that's where
so it's like, she wouldn't have come if she hadn't been bribed. Like, it shouldn't have to be bribed to hang out with your family. So, you know what I mean? Like, I definitely see both sides to it, though.
Yeah. And then it's like, but the thing is, too, it's like, it didn't really look like Feyre was even putting any effort even to acknowledge her there. Like, Feyre is the one that, if you are like, pulling teeth to get, like, there's a group that I go to on Friday nights for like a Bible study on occasion. When I go, they always make it, like, because I don't always go and I'm horrible at attending. But when I do go, they always make the effort of like, oh, hey, we missed you. It's good to see you. And they're like always like instantly like, but again, I'm not Nesta. I hope I'm not Nesta. Like, I hope that's not how I come off.
Nobody wants
but
to
it's like, they make an effort to at least acknowledge that I'm there. It's like,
well,
I just need to go back and reread it. But it's like, I don't know.
Well, to me, some of it's the author, too.
Because Nesta's attitude is really nasty earlier on. Like, she's a really nasty person. And I don't want to take away from that because she had a lot that she needed to acknowledge and apologize for. Because what she did is not right. She was the oldest. She should have been the one to step up. Like, even after she became a Fae, she should have been like, you know what? This is how it's going to be. I'm now with my sisters now. We're all together again. So Dad's no longer in the picture. And we understand from now that the dad was a lot of what was causing her hatred, apparently. Yeah. And it's like she should have stepped up and been like, hey, this is like, Dad's no longer in the picture. It's just us now. I'm the oldest. I need to step up and do something. At least help Feyre. Now that she's in this really high up position, I need to be there for her and try to help and be a help. And she didn't do that. Yeah. And I understand there's a lot of trauma around with that. But it's like, for me, so I don't want to take away from the negative. But
for me, a lot of the Frost and Starlight, I think it was my lowest rating ACOTAR book in the series because it felt like a short Christmas special, and the author kind of jumped over a lot of. I feel like you could have filled it out more if you really wanted to make it more of a thing. And so to me, it's like you gotta we also have to it probably was also a lot of contributed to the author not giving us all the details of the party or whatever that contributed to not having a scene between Feyre and Nesta or whoever.
And that's
it was
true.
It was just a short collection of. It was like a Christmas special that didn't really need to exist to bridge the gap between one book and another. And it's like you either could have done it better, made it longer, or to cut it out entirely. Like it was a very weird book for me
because it is because on Goodreads it's advertised. On Goodreads it's listed as 3.5. And it has a novella tag added to it. So it's like, if that's the way it was supposed to be marketed, and that's the way she was writing it, then you need to make that one Christmas, that one celebration scene, and put a lot of detail into that scene. Because looking in hindsight, I see now what that book is meant to do. That book was meant to close off Feyre's story and open up Nesta's. It was a transitional story between Feyre to Nesta, and I'm thinking potentially Elaine. I think we may end up getting an Elaine book because we focused on one sister and for the first 3. Now we focused on the oldest. So which sister's left the youngest, and then I don't know what that other, because apparently there's supposed to be 2 more. I thought I read that somewhere, but so like I can see what it was meant to do. It's meant to be like a transition and it sets the scene for Silver Flames, because she's like, I don't know if she's living in that little house that she had then.
I don't remember.
I don't know if she's living there in Frost and Starlight, but it kind of like, it's like setting the stage for that, so that way, like, you know, she just starts drinking, and it's kind of opening that up, so that way she's in that pit when we see her. I feel
like that's what she intended, but the weird thing is when you read Silver Flames, it also kind of doesn't really, it kind of mentions that event, but it doesn't really include it enough for it to be a actual bridge. So it's like, that's probably what she intended it to be, but at the same time, it's like,
but it just wasn't written that way. It would have
been brought into Silver Flames a lot more and been more relevant.
It should have been the word I'm looking for. It should have been more deep. Like, she should have put more detail. Like, more detail into the party, more detail with people interacting. Like, you know, there should have been a lot more in with that.
Yeah.
And another thing that I feel like I completely glossed over until I went back and was thinking about it, like, I completely forgot that Amren completely, like, betrayed them, like, in Wings and Ruin. Like, she literally turned on them and, like, betrayed them. But then she claimed that the betrayal was so she could be set free, and so we're magically fine with it. And I'm like,
that's odd.
She's gonna come back. That's gonna come back later. I'm one of those things. It's one of those things that the more I think, like, now that I've sat on it and left and come back, I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like how that was just kind of skimmed over. It felt like, and like, because was Amren a part of Silver Flames?
She was in a few
was
scenes.
A part of it, wasn't she?
Yeah, she and Nesta, like, basically, and her and Nesta got into this huge fight, and so they hated each other, because she was trying to give Nesta a dose of tough love, but, like, Nesta didn't take it that way, and so Nesta, like, hated her. Like, hated her with a passion. Which is fine, because I'm not really a fan of Amren, to be honest. Like, her character is just kind of meh to me. So
Is Amren the character that keeps pushing Reese to, like, take power?
Yes,
to take more power.
That's the one we talked about that would work as a villain, because the way that she talked to Reese in Silver Flames was giving me so much villain vibes. Like, I can't even, like, if she's not a villain, I'm gonna be shocked.
I wonder,
you know what I mean?
See, what the thing that I think would be really cool is if she's one of those characters that bridges that ties the series, all the different series together.
Yeah.
Because this concept of, like, portals to other realms is a thing in ACOTAR.
Yeah,
it's also mentioned. It's mentioned in Throne of Glass as well. So it's like, and they don't really know her, because she was the character they didn't really know a lot of, like, her origins, right?
Yeah, she was like one of the ancient beings that came over from whatever realm and then came into this one or something like that. So
now that I'm like, I want to finish this series and get on to Crescent City. I
totally get it.
I need the Easter eggs. I need them.
Okay. Yeah, I just got to get the Throne of Glass first.
Okay, Onyx Storm.
Yeah, okay. Onyx Storm. So I didn't read the snippet. So for those of you who don't know, Onyx Storm is
I haven't either.
Onyx Storm is the Empyrean book 3. It comes out in January, so people are going crazy with theories after the cliffhanger of Iron Flame. So, I didn't read the snippet, but I watched a video kind of about the snippet, and basically I don't remember the details, which is probably a good thing, but it was something like they're in a fight scene and she sees a Venom with silver hair, and it like reminds it, like it's later like the scene, the person was like, oh well, later on it acknowledges her silver hair, like as if it was making a connection between, oh, this Venom with silver hair and her, she has silver hair too. And essentially they're trying to say that it leans toward the theory that her dad is a Venom. Spoilers, potentially, for the Empyrean series. Yeah. And so that it kind of like basically people are thinking that your theory that you, because I remember you told me that, I don't know if you got that out of your head or just in general, but that seems to be the popular theory right now, and I don't like it. I know that you are a fan of it, but that's kind of like, it's going to take away from Xaden being a Venom if she's half Venom, and it's just like, it's weird. I don't like it, depending on how she writes it, but it just, I don't know.
I just don't like all of the main thing that always irritated me is that the dad just died of a broken heart after the son died.
Yeah.
And there was all this talk of her like being this super sickly child. And it's like, she's so sickly, and it's like, yet she manages to accomplish all of this being a dragon rider, but yet she's so frail growing up, and she almost died. Like, I don't know if she almost died, or like her mom was like, when she had her, she was like really, really sick, and she's always been really frail. And the dad's made the point of keeping her away from the rider, whereas her other two siblings have been. And he was like huge about keeping her locked away in the archives.
Yeah.
And it's like, he just randomly just dies of a broken heart. And I'm like, that makes no sense. There has to be more.
I see how there needs to be more. I do see the need for more. I just don't want to take away from Zayden being a villain and like doing the plot line and then not doing anything with it. Like, oh, he saves him, he's fine, he doesn't do anything, he doesn't ever turn. It's just like a thing.
My theory is that he's going to start fighting against her, and she's going to have to go against everybody and join the Venom to try to figure out how to cure him. And to keep him from going crazy. That's my thing. Because it's called Onyx Storm. And like her lightning is like a storm, but his eyes are onyx. So my thinking it's a play on words of him being this violent storm, but her also being the storm that's trying to like onyx storm. I don't know. There's like a play there. That's her lightning ability mixed with him becoming Venom, which we know Venom kind of go crazy. And that healer guy had to keep Jack Barlow, I think it was Jack Barlow, wasn't it? Yeah. From like going insane. And like that's the whole concept of Venom is they eventually go insane. So I think we're going to see more of if it's written the way we would expect it to be written in that case.
Yeah, that's what we're
given. But like I think that it had there was some kind of venom used to heal her. I think she was either close to dying or like maybe died as a baby. Yeah. And the only way to save her was to have something to do with venom. I don't know if her dad's venom or if that's tying on the fact that she has a silver strip in her hair because something venom was used to like help her when she was a baby or what. That was my kind of thinking. Does she have a silver strip in her hair or is her hair all the way silver? Yeah. No, I thought her hair a chunk of it is silver.
That's weird because the person that I watched said her hair is completely silver. But yeah, I'm so excited for it, but I'm also kind of like scared because I don't want the writer to like do things that like I don't like. But it's like, I'm just
Violet's hair is half silver.
Yeah, so whatever video I watched, they were wrong because they mentioned, oh, Violet's hair is silver. It's like, no, it's not all the way silver. Bluish. I couldn't remember, so it's like I don't remember the hair color,
Well, okay, I don't know me. Yeah, she has the ends are silver.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The ends of her hair are silver, and no matter how she cuts it, it's just stays silver. Brown with silver ends. Yeah, the ends of her hair are silver. It's not completely silver.
So it's not completely silver.
Just the ends. Yeah, and so that's what made me think that maybe that because it mentioned something about like however she styles her hair, it's gonna grow back out with those silver bits are gonna be there.
Yeah,
or something to that effect.
Yeah,
and so it's like that's what makes me think that like because we know that she struggled as a baby and she was really, really, really sick. And she was a lot frailer than her siblings. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes me think that has something like in desperation, the dad did something with venom to heal her or to
I can see
heal
that.
mom when mom was pregnant. That's what I think. I don't know whether that made her like a hybrid or have venom or made her blood maybe be like a cure for that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or maybe her dad knew something about how to cure that. And she's going to have to go through and look back on her dad and maybe her dad's turned Venom. I don't know. Because it does mention that there was a guy that was the main Venom guy was wanting to see her. So maybe he knew her father or maybe the father made a deal with him to save her. Who knows? Like, I could see it be like a Rumpelstiltskin type of thing, where Daddy makes a deal with the main Venom guy, makes a deal with the enemy to save the daughter, but to try to keep the daughter away from the enemy, he tries to push her into being a scribe, so that way he knows that she has no contact with riders and Venom and any of that.
And won't fight them, yeah.
Like, I could see that being a thing.
I could almost see, I don't know if the dad, like, if we're going to go with the idea that he didn't really die and he's still alive out there or whatever, but I could even see a twist where the main Venom guy is her dad, but then she's seen his face, so it wouldn't change that much. It wouldn't change his face that much, I don't know.
She's already had, like, a character be dead, like, who's dead, not actually be dead with the brother. Yeah, so that wouldn't be a thing again. I don't know. I think, like, I've heard theories that maybe the brother's actually going to turn bad. I've heard those theories, too, that the brother's going to turn bad. There's the brother's actually the bad guy, or the sister's the bad guy. I don't know. It's really intriguing. There's a lot of questions. Yeah, I'm definitely excited for it, though. Yes, me too. So, I felt like there was one more subject that I wanted to. I know Onyx Storm was the big one. Yeah. I'm excited for the new new Hunger Games book coming out in March. That one's exciting. Like, it's like Haymitch's backstory. I think I'm going to wait until that one comes out, and then I kind of want to just read them all in chronological order. Yeah. That would be fun. It seems like she's going back and telling stories about some of the other characters in the series, and that's kind of the question, like, what character would you want to get a book about? Because we've got Snow, and now we're getting Haymitch. Honestly, I don't care enough about the Hunger Games anymore to really care if we get one thing or another. Like, I like Haymitch's character, so I feel like I'm excited for his story, but I'm not close with the Hunger Games anymore to really be like, yes, I want this particular character or another. So, but I feel like Haymitch is going to be pretty exciting because I really like his character. So, Kato's would be kind of interesting. But that one would be interesting. Fanique, his games. Well, everybody loves Fanique. Right. Yeah, I definitely could see a Fanique situation. What was the girl with the girl that undressed in the elevator? What was her name? Joanna. She's literally my name, Joanna, with an H. I should have known that. I should have remembered. So I think in my head, it's always the crazy. Johanna is how I pronounced it. Yeah, it's technically Joanna. So that's why I didn't trigger with it. So I was like, I always said Johanna in my head. So it's like, nope. If there's an H, it's still pronounced Joanna. Yeah, a lot of people will put an H in my name actually because they think that's how that's spelled, but that's not how I spell it. But anytime there's a Joanna, it's always a crazy tick. Like, it's so hilarious. That's funny. Like The Rescuers Down Under, I don't know if you've seen that animated movie, but it's like The Rescuers Down Under, the bad guy has a pet lizard, and it's a goanna, so they named her Joanna, and he's like, Joanna! It's like every time he yells at her, it's like, okay, I'm here. Funny. It's just funny, I don't know. Funny. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for our check-in. Like I said, I'm hoping to finish editing The Heart of Christmas this week. I needed to be writing tonight, and I have a feeling I'm going to fall behind. Tuesday is Immortal's official release day, so I don't know if I'm going to get caught up. I have a feeling, I worry that I may fall behind on my writing, which means that I may be scrambling to catch up with my writing, and therefore I may, like, fall back on my editing. But I'm hoping not. But I'm definitely having fun reading, and I kind of have the rest of the month to kind of read whatever. So I'm, like I said, I'm really into searching for peace right now. Yeah. Which, so far. Like, honestly, like, I don't think my goal was ever to fully read all of my TBR. It was just, like, restricting myself, like, I have to read from this stack for the month. Yeah. Because I don't want to read The Hunger Games right now, and I don't really want to read Harry Potter either. So if I managed to get done with Tower of Dawn this
I
month.
count that as a win, considering how long It and Empire of Storms is.
Yeah. I'll probably just start Kingdom of Ash. And then maybe throw in...
Sense.
Oh, what could I throw in with it next month?
Your audio is going out when you turn. We can't hear you when you turn like that.
It's because it's coming. It's coming in from my computer.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably. There's a couple of them that I bought that I'm like might be interesting to read. I have one that's sitting next to the Naxia series that I forget what it's called, but I bought it at Target. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could read that after Kingdom of Ash. So I don't know if I want to read a book in between or if I just want to jump straight into City. Because a lot of people say like the first 100 pages are confusing of Crescent City, but it's like it's definitely feels like more like an urban kind of almost feels like not futuristic, but kind of.
You froze.
But it's also fantasy.
Actually, you went out entirely now.
Okay. So, but yeah, so I don't know. Like next month, I'm not quite sure. I think at this point, my goal is just to finish Tower of Dawn.
Makes sense. That seems like a really, like I said, It and Empire Storms was so long. Like it's, seems like that would be a win for you this month.
Yeah.
So I wasn't expecting to get mine done. So that's why I was like, I'm just going to read whatever. And that way, like, I'm not obligated.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm going to finish this book. Whether I finish it in November is to be seen. But like, if I don't finish it, it's not like, a bad thing.
Yeah.
But So I'm interested to see what the last two books are going to be about because there's only 3 guys, Lance, Elijah, and Michael. And the first one was Lance. I'm reading Elijah, so the next one I assume is going to be Michael's, but I'm like, who are the next 2? Because there's no other guys on the team. So it's
probably
really
be some more guys, like maybe a guy introduced in this one and then a guy introduced in the next one, maybe.
Yeah, there's a guy who works for the LAPD and who helps them sometimes, so I'm hoping that he gets a book because he's a really cool character. Yeah. He's a Marine, though, so they were all in the Army, so I'm really interested in him, hoping that he's one of them. But yeah. So, and again, just when you get, like, a relaxing ship moment, or, like, even not really necessarily, like, a relationship moment, just, like, a calm conversation, something else will happen. And, like, in this one, the woman, the grandmother, when she died, she gave the inheritance to everybody, and the granddaughter, which is the main girl in this, Andy, got the house and everything inside of it, and her mother didn't, because her mother was like a really crappy mother, and that's why she was closer with her grandmother. And so the mom is really angry, and one of those, like, I'm gonna come around when I want money and I want things from you, kind of one of those people. And so so the suspicion is that she's in on it, in on the stuff that's happening, like the brick through the window, and then the library was trashed. So I'm kind of in the beginning, so like the opening scenarios, which the brick through the window was another scenario that was in the last book. So I'm hoping that her scenarios, like the suspenseful stuff, is not repetitive. Yeah, that's what I'm going to be looking for a little bit. So, and one of my other critiques was that her descriptions, like she, in the first book especially, she described everybody when they first came in, and some of the side characters never got descriptions, but then after that it's very vague, and there's not specific descriptions, so it's really hard to picture the characters sometimes. And so I'm hoping that gets better in this book. But like I said, in the first book, I'm pretty sure Elijah, when Lance first saw him in the scene, he was described as having this big scar on the side of his face going down into his shirt. And in this one, that's not even mentioned when she looks at him. So I don't know if I got him mixed up with Michael, maybe, or if that's just been forgotten about, or I don't know. But yeah, and like I said, the Christian stuff is really good. There was some really good lines and everything else. So, and then I'm actually enjoying The Heart of Christmas. Like, I mentioned this when I had my first check-in, but it's not as much work as I thought. There's not as much that needs to be fixed or changed as I thought, and it's actually better than I thought. So I was really trashing myself in my head about, this book sucks. But it's like, it's not that bad. So...
Okay.
Yeah. I also realized, because this is a random story, but I was in this author group and she was like, post a graphic of all your published books and link to your Amazon author page. And I did that and I was like, oh, I actually don't have a lot of books published besides the Valiant series, the Republic Chronicles, which I want to revise and redo the covers over, the Calamity's Hope series, and a few standalones. That's it. I'm like, I need to get to publishing. Like, I've written so many books, but I didn't realize how many I haven't published. And I was like, I need to get to work. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for our check-in. My brain is starting to wind down. So unless y'all want to watch us sleep, just kidding. But like,
I could do an ASMR with my keyboard.
Yeah.
Just put it right next to the microphone.
With your nails. I have no nails, so mine, like, it still makes a clack, but like, it's not the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I crack my students up. I go around like clacking my fingers with my nails on things. Just like the change in the sounds based on the materials. Oh no, I can't handle the scraping would drive me nuts. But yeah,
that's funny.
Make the little clicking.
Yeah,
they usually get a kick out of me doing that. They just laugh at me, and I'm like, you know what? That's fine. I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so this has been our check-in for week 3 of our Pens and Paperbacks podcast.
Yes.
I don't know why that's really hard for me to remember, but I really like it. So, But yeah, we will check in with you guys. Hopefully this week, like last week, we checked in like almost until the last few days. Like we checked in a lot early last week.
Yeah.
Latter half, not so much. But
yeah.
So
yeah, we had like a couple check-ins like right after the other. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, there's just a lot going on like with our books and everything. But yeah, so we will check with you guys next time. So that'll be our final. I think that's going to be probably the final one.
Subscribe to the new channels.
Yes.
All the new channels and stuff.
You guys are probably watching it on that channel, but I'll have a link in the description below and all that stuff. So, yep. So we'll check in with you guys next week.
All right. Bye.
All right, so it is Saturday afternoon, which means another week has gone by. I haven't been recording a lot. I don't know. I haven't read a whole lot. I've read a little bit more in Tower of Dawn. We have a new character that's been introduced again, which kind of surprises me because we're like one book away from the end of the series, which is not technically not a new character. We've been introduced to her in Assassin's Blade. And I was kind of surprised. I honestly had forgotten about this particular character, and so I wasn't really expecting her to be introduced again, but it kind of makes sense. I am really liking learning about this new continent, this new area, like customs. There's kind of like, it's like, I don't know, it's like a king, but also kind of seems like a god at the same time, so it's kind of interesting. It's like a very religious kind of area in the world, and we're seeing more of Kael. I really need to remember the female character that comes with him. Give me a minute and I'll check so that way I know her name. Okay, I've got it. So Kael and Nesrin, I think I'm saying that right. I am honestly really enjoying getting their perspective on the events of what's going on, like in Empire of Storms. I have to keep reminding myself that like the beginning of the book takes place at the beginning of Empire of Storms, which I can kind of understand why people would read the tandem read. And if I was truly going through it chronologically, I probably should have read it tandem read, but I know my the stamina that I tend to have with longer books, and so I didn't want to put myself in a position where I would get tired of it really quickly, so I chose not to do that. I'm kind of glad that I chose not to do that because I needed a break from Aelin and Rowan and all of that whole situation with all of them. I needed a break because I'm still kind of frustrated with how Empire of Storms ended. My full review is up on my blog in Goodreads, so if you want to check that out, we can put like links somewhere. But yeah, so I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I was really kind of frustrated at it, which I've kind of explained to you guys already, but I haven't got to do much reading this over the weekend. I took a trip to see my cousin not Joanna, my other cousin. And we had like a painting class day, and it was a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed that. But I haven't been able to read a bunch this weekend. I should have some more free time this week. We have some things going on at school and at home, so not a lot going on. So I should have some free time coming up. So it's Sunday afternoon, which means I have to do a lot of cleaning. So I'll probably pull up the audiobook and listen while I do laundry and sweep and mop and clean the bathrooms and all that jazz that you have to do on a daily basis, weekly basis. Well, I do it weekly. Some people do it daily. Just kind of depends how clean and how dirty of a person you are. Anyway, so Sunday's my cleaning day because school keeps me busy throughout the week. But so that's kind of what I have to do today, and so I'm kind of expecting to be able to listen to the audiobook a little bit and make some more progress. I'm enjoying it so far. It doesn't feel like a chore to read, which is nice. I'm still getting clips for Kingdom of Ash and talking about how people need therapy after reading that book. Considering how I wasn't completely devastated by how things ended with Aelin at the end of Empire of Storms, I don't know if it's really truly going to be that horrible for me. I don't know what happens. I'm expecting Maeve to continue to make to be the antagonist in that story. I'm kind of expecting her to do some more crap that will put our characters in an even more of a bind than they already are. If I'm being completely honest, I'm expecting a typical Sarah J. Maas ending where everyone lives, even if it's like life or death situations, which I don't hate that. I wouldn't hate that, but I'm totally expecting that to happen. So, yeah, you kind of get a glimpse at my bookshelves. There's the painting that I made yesterday. But yeah, so it's kind of my cluttery bookshelf. You have my Techno Blade plushie there and some other knickknacks and whatnots. So, yeah, I'll try to make another check-in a couple times this week to kind of make up for the lack of check-ins already. So, yeah, see you soon. All right, so beginning of week 3, I'm making pretty good progress in Tower of Dawn. I've done a lot of like audiobook listening the past couple days, just because the weekends are when I do a lot of my cleaning, and so sometimes it's just easier to put the audiobook on and then like cook lunch, like fix lunch, do the laundry. I had to vacuum earlier, so I had to end up just fully stop listening and stop everything for that a little bit ago. But starting to see some of the bad guys from the previous books, the main antagonists, starting to see kind of hints of them showing up again, which is kind of nice because it kind of felt like, although I'm not complaining about this. I like this fact, but it definitely felt like we were completely kind of going away from everything. It just felt very isolated from the rest of the series, which, considering I'm not too happy about how the last book went, I didn't hate that. I honestly don't hate Kale either. Like, I never really hated him. I just got really irritated at his attitude and how he would say things, and especially to the main character, and just make assumptions, and just was really being very unreasonable about the whole situation. But I like how he's like been humbled a little bit. Like, he's kind of been put into this position where he's kind of like a shell of his former self, and he's having to address the issues, and I love that part of his whole healing process, not just physically but emotionally, and I love how Sarah put that into the story of like addressing the emotional issues and the emotional trauma, as well as healing the physical, and that like in healing the physical body that applies to that as well. And I love that so much. I just wish that, I wish that was like just kind of, and I guess like in Court of Silver Flames with Nesta, I guess we kind of saw a little bit of that too, where she was training her physical body, but in the process of that she was working through her emotional problems and issues as well. So I guess we kind of see that applying a little bit. I love when Sarah writes that into her stories, and so it's making it really interesting. Irene, the healer, in the story, I really love her. I loved her when we were first introduced to her, and so I'm kind of just, I like that we're getting more of her from her perspective and what's going on with her, so I'm really liking that as well. Let's see, a couple other non-bookish things. I guess they're bookish related. I finally was able to get my review for A Court of Wings and Ruin typed out and posted on Goodreads and my blog and everything. I'm starting to post on YouTube. It's just reels right now, until I can get to a point where I have time to sit down and make like actual videos. But so far I'm really enjoying it. A little nervous just because how antisocial I am most of the time. So yeah. A lot's happened the past couple days. I know Joanna and I just did an update, a check-in together last night. I'm trying to think. I know tomorrow is when Immortal releases, I believe. I believe tomorrow is Immortal's like official release date, so that's exciting. Yeah, so I need to there's some things I need to help get to her, but my ARC review for that book is on Goodreads. I could post that one tomorrow on my blog. It's an idea. Sorry, just future Joanna, you're gonna have to listen to my thoughts that end up coming out loud. Anyway, that's kind of the goal for today. I kind of mentioned this to Joanna last night, but I think her and I have different expectations for TBR. Like, my goal for the month was not to get through all of the books that I had put on my TBR. I had Empire Storms, I had Tower of Dawn, and then I threw a couple in there that I might possibly want to read, but I just kind of was the toss-up of whether I would be in the mood to read them or not. In my head, the way I'm looking at it, I create a TBR list for the month, and I can only read books from that list. Now, my goal is to not get through all of them, but my goal is to stick to the list. So if that means if I get done with this one before the end of, if I get through this one before the end of November, there's a possibility I might start reading The Hunger Games. I kind of want to use my one, because in my head I'm giving myself one wild card, so if I want to throw one book into the mix, because I did that last month, I threw a novella into the mix. I might throw Kingdom of Ash into the mix and start that one and get a kind of a head start for December, and that'll be like my first one in December. But considering it's a lot bigger than the other books in the series, I have a feeling it's going to take me a hot minute to get through it. It's also supposed to be very like emotional and traumatic for the readers, so I'm hoping that means that some kind of one of the characters loses their life or has to sacrifice himself or something, because if not, it means both of ACOTAR series and the Throne of Glass series would have been very predictable. So yeah, which I hope it's not the case, because in ACOTAR it seemed like any life or death situation resulted in everyone being fine and miraculously making it out. Like literally almost every book ends that way. In the ACOTAR series, And so far, that hasn't been the case here. We saw some in the last book. We saw several situations where there's like life or death situations, and they miraculously were able to fight off the armies or whatever. Like we saw that a couple times in the last book. But yeah, so I'm kind of hoping that this one doesn't end that way too, but we'll see. I am super excited to finally get into the Crescent City series. I know people have like a love-hate relationship with it. I find it intriguing. The covers look really pretty, and I know that's a horrible judge of books, but it's like you want the cover to fit what the book is about. Like that's kind of part of the goal, I would think. And I'm definitely one of those stereotypical readers that judges a book by its cover. If it has a pretty cover, I'm going to be more motivated to read it. It's not that I'm not going to read it, because I've definitely read a lot of classics that did not have the best covers on them. But if it has a really pretty cover, like the Crescent City series covers have, I am more likely to read that book because of the pretty cover. So that's kind of what I'm thinking at the moment of what I want to do. So yeah, I've got guitar. I got a jam session with my guitar teacher tonight. And then when I get home, I'm probably going to read a little bit more. Kind of the plan. It's Monday. Our school district does a 4-day school week, so it's kind of nice. Get Mondays just to either catch up on stuff, doctor's appointments, all that. And so today's one of those few days where I just have the day to just relax a little bit, which is nice and definitely good for my mental health and stress level. So yeah, I'm excited. All right, I'll do another check-in later. Bye.
Hey guys, so this is a check-in for my November TBR. I'm an absolute mess right now. But I actually finished Searching for Peace last night, which was the second book in the Christian military romantic suspense. So it was Pages of Promise was book 1, which was on my own November TBR list. And because I'm practically finished with it, I decided to go ahead and keep reading the series. So I finished Searching for Peace, which was book 2. And I also filmed my review and got that up last night and started book 3. Second Chance Serenity. Let me pull up the cover here. Okay. Second Chance Serenity is book 3. So yeah, I filmed my review last night. So if you want all of my thoughts, I'll put it here as a card if I'm allowed to, since this is going to be on our new channel. I don't know if I can have cards from other channels. There goes the kitty. On this, but if not, I'll have it in the description. But basically I loved it, and I loved it more than book 1. The ending was disappointing for me. It felt very rushed and like, oh, everything was solved and stuff, just way too fast. Like they figured everything out too easily, and I was kind of disappointed by it, by the ending, not the book. And so that kind of docked it. Otherwise it would have been pretty close to like a 5-star read for me. So that's why it was 4.5 stars. Book 1 was 4 stars. This one's 4.5. I'm not as invested in the next couple, even though the main character is named Michael, and that's my husband's name. Kind of weird, but I'm not as invested in them, but I'm still going to give it a chance because this is still my mood right now, and I don't want to like switch to fantasy and then finish. I feel like if I quit now, I'm not going to finish the series, so I'm going to try to keep going. And the last book, I think, is the one I'm looking forward to reading the most. But the first 3, there's only 3 guys on the team, so I'm really interested to see what the next 2 guys are, because there's 5 books, but only 3 guys, so I don't know who these last 2 are. So that's a thing. And then Immortal launched yesterday, my book, and it's not doing as well as I would hoped. It's not doing bad, and I have earned money and I have sold some, but I'm just kind of having a pity party of myself because I'm putting in all this work and effort, not just in the book, which is a whole nother story, but marketing it so hard. And it's frustrating because it's not getting as much of a response on social media as I was hoping. And for me, like, yeah, the money is nice, but it's like doing this job, you have to have multiple streams of income because selling books is not going to make you enough money to do anything. So for me, what matters more is like people's responding, like, oh, you know, the reader like reading and enjoying the book. Like that's what matters more to me, that readers will read and enjoy the books and get something out of it and all that stuff. And the reader, like, it's just not, my marketing sucks, I guess, or something. So I'm feeling bad for myself. I'm still writing in this same genre. So I don't know. It's also very cold in here, which is why I've got like this blanket. I've got the blanket on my feet. I've got my hoodie on. And then I've got the blanket underneath me because it's keeping me warm. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm having a pity party for myself, which is when you want to read the most so you can disappear from reality. I'll read somebody else's book because mine just, I don't know. Sometimes I just want to give up publishing because it's just so hard. But anyways, so yeah, I'm gonna keep reading Second Chance Serenity and see what happens. The premise so far, basically what my problem is, I'm picking up on the author's patterns because like it's all, the suspect is always like this person you don't see, and so far it's always been a female, like a female that you wouldn't have thought of, but it has some sort of secret twist, and I'm pretty good at figuring things out. Like I'm not the best, but like I don't want to start predicting it. And then there's always like the guy gets hurt, the girl gets kidnapped by the bad guy, the guy puts it together and rescues the girl, and then there's the happy ending and they get together. And I don't like predictability. I know romance readers typically do, and that's why a lot of these standalone romances do so well, is because they're copy and paste, and it's like different characters, maybe a variation within the plot line or the details, but it's the same thing. And they like that. My books, maybe that's why my books don't do so well, is because they fit outside of the box. But either way, I don't want it to get predictable, so I feel like this book is gonna make or break it for me, where I may skip the fourth one and go straight to the fifth one, and maybe not even finish this one if it gets too predictable. But we'll see what happens. I'm gonna give it a chance. And yeah, like I said, the ending of the last one was just kind of disappointing. Thought I had another thought to say too, but I don't remember. I don't know, it's good. I don't know if I'm still in this mood, but sometimes it's not quite as gritty as I like. But I'm also writing my own in the same genre, so that could just be me making comparisons and stuff, but we'll see. I'll have some more thoughts that I want to talk to Hannah about when we do our next check-in, but that's it for now, so I will check in with you guys next time.
Hey guys, so I'm gonna make dinner, so you're gonna hear me chat while I make dinner. So random bookish things. I literally just sent Joanna a text message about this, but I saw an interview with Sarah J. Maas on Instagram that says that, and she said they told her they asked her, now that you finished writing Crescent City Book 3, like what's your current project or whatever, and she said that she was working on drafting the next ACOTAR book. I'm so excited. So that's exciting news. Anyway, I haven't got much reading done today, but there's a reason. So we're getting ready to start food labs tomorrow, which is very chaotic because I have a bunch of 8th graders and 7th graders in kitchens cooking things. So it's kind of interesting, but it takes up a large portion of my brain capacity to be able to like organize, make sure I've got all the food that I need bought, and make sure we have enough of everything and all that jazz. So yeah, so that's kind of what my brain has been at this point. I don't know, I haven't really got very far, but I think I may do like a little bit of reading while I'm getting things cooking. But yeah, I'm making cauliflower fried rice tonight. It's gonna be good. Just so you know, frozen vegetables are still vegetables. I'm gonna put this in it. I need to get all my other seasonings out too. But that's kind of what I'm looking at the moment. Garlic powder, onion powder. Anyway, so I'm kind of like still into, I don't know. I have discovered that I feel like I'm not into ACOTAR, I'm not into Throne of Glass as much as I am with ACOTAR. That's one thing I have discovered that feels a little strange, but I don't know what it is. And everybody, like all the videos online I've seen, all talk about how Throne of Glass is just so much better than ACOTAR. And part of me wonders if, because one pattern I did notice with all of the ACOTAR books is that it always ends in a happy ending. There's like, everyone always ends up being fine. Even if it's not like there's a huge battle, there's like, no one dies. Like, there's a lot of people there's several characters that are like near-death experience type of thing, but no one truly dies in the stories. Spoiler alert, by the way. Sorry. And I'm wondering, I have one more book after Tower of Dawn, but everyone talks and acts like Kingdom of Ash is just this horribly, horribly, horribly sad book. Like, oh, you're gonna need therapy after you read it. That kind of sad. So I wonder if Sarah doesn't kill somebody off at the end, or kills off one of the side characters. I don't know. I don't know what happens. I don't really want to know what happens because I'm gonna read it. But that's what makes me wonder, because I read ACOTAR first and I really liked that whole vibe, and it just felt more fast-paced than this. And I don't know how to explain it because it's not slow. Like, this series is not slow. It just, I don't know. It just feels like the main character's I'm not seeing that growth. I don't know if it's just I'm not meshing, like I'm not liking her personality as much. I don't know what the deal is. I'm just not, it's not sticking well with me. And I just haven't figured out why. So I am not in a huge rush at this point. I like Tower of Dawn. It's really engaging and I'm enjoying it, and I'm like second guessing every single character because I'm assuming something bad's gonna happen. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't know how to feel. I'm just not loving it. I don't know. Because it's not a bad book. Depending on if this makes me love Chaol again by the end, and if this is a true redemption arc for him, it will be a 5-star. Because Court of Silver Flames was the same way. I hated Nesta more so. Like, I think that having Empire of Storms has softened, reading that first, has softened my irritation for Chaol. It has softened my irritation for him. Because I got a break from him. So I don't hate him like I hated Nesta. I don't, I have my issues with Nesta. I do, from ACOTAR. But I don't feel like my hatred for Chaol is to that magnitude. One, because I kind of sympathize with him a little bit. He had some crap happen to him, let's be honest. So I kind of empathize with him a little bit. So I don't know if that's part of it, where I just empathize with him because he had some stuff happen to him, like major stuff happen. But so I don't hate him to the magnitude that I hated Nesta, but if I feel like his thoughts, his concerns, and his opinions about certain characters are valid by the end of the book, and I can come to love him and care about what happens to him, then I think this book is a success. Yes. So, I do feel horrible that they're like not even on the same continent when their home is, you know, stuff happens. If you know, you know. Nezrin, I don't know how to feel about her going off on her own. It slightly irritates me at how, I don't know, I shouldn't say irritates me, but it concerns me at how comfortable she is in this area, because as a reader, it's always a red flag for me if a person is comfortable. So, yeah. Like, if a character gets comfortable, usually something bad happens afterwards. So, I am concerned at how comfortable she is and how happy she is, because usually that doesn't end well. So, especially in a book that's in the middle of a war. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to continue cooking dinner. Probably read some chapters. I'm not sure if Joanna and I are going to do a check-in tonight or not. Kind of depends on how much work she has to do. But, yeah. See you soon.
Let's see. What am I just clicked a weird button. Sorry. Hey. All right. This is our second check-in for week 3. We haven't checked in a while. I did a little bit of one last night or whatever. But yeah, I
did one on dinner. I made cauliflower fried rice with ground turkey in it.
That sounds good, actually. Sounds
I need to make it for you. Like, it's a really good way to get your vegetables in, especially if you do cauliflower rice, because it like has the same texture as rice. It's cauliflower.
Yeah, nice. I love the cauliflower. Yeah. What was the recipe that we did? It was like a casserole, like a potato casserole, but instead of potatoes, it was like cauliflower, something like that. It was good. Yeah, it was like I was going to say potatoes and cheese and some other stuff, but it was cauliflower and cheese and stuff. Alicia makes it, I think.
Okay.
But I have finished editing The Heart of Christmas. So I fell way behind. And so every day I fell behind, I would have like this bookmark where I am, and this one I would move ahead, like the story. So every day I'm supposed to be editing 2 stories. So I would count 1, 2 every day. It got so bad. I was like, I don't even know how many stories I'm behind. And I just put my bookmark at the end. And I was like, I just got to get the book done. So I sat down and I edited 6 stories tonight. And those are the final 6. And I finished. So my TBR list for November is officially done. Because it was this one and Pages of Promise and The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which I don't have with me at the moment. So I got those 3 done.
I feel like you're just a completionist, and I'm just like, let's just survive the month. That's where my mindset's like, let's just get something accomplished this month. Yeah. Well, and I didn't go in assuming that I was going to complete all of them, because I'm not in the mood to read either one of these. I just wanted to give myself a little bit of choice in case I didn't want to read
one. Yeah, you could read the other. Yeah, you're doing great.
You know,
in my defense, like, these romances are, for me at least, they're really quick reads. So I did finish Pages of Promise. Let me go back out of here because I got to talk to you guys about the details. No, Searching for Peace. So I finished Searching for Peace. It was book 2. I did say I loved this couple more, and I haven't told you any of the details, so because it's been days since we've talked.
No, you haven't. Yeah.
Basically, this old lady named Edna dies, and he is like, kind of like, he helped her around the house, and kind of, she was like a second grandmother to him. His parents died, so his grandmother raised him, and his grandmother died, so like Edna reminded him of his grandmother.
Yeah.
So she just died, and it's like her funeral is like the book start. Her granddaughter came back home, and the thing is, he hates her granddaughter because in his mind, he's been in Edna's life for these last 3 years, and she never came to see her grandmother. And so he hates her. But from her perspective, he's this guy who's been mooching off her grandmother for everything that she has. So they
were telling me about that.
Yeah, and then the grandmother likes to play matchmaker, so she put in her will that they both co-own the house and have to agree on what to do with it. And she wants to sell it, and he wants to keep it. So there's another conflict there. And then there's some sort of secret that causes the suspense plot line and why somebody's trying to kill her and all this stuff. So it's really good, knowing that, like, you and I have lost Mimi back in 2019, I think it's been now, like, losing my grandmother, like, a lot of while. It has. It feels crazy. Yeah. but a lot of the grief stuff hit me hard, but it was really cathartic in a way, because it just reminded me of Mimi and stuff. Like, and there's one scene in there where she was cleaning out her grandmother's stuff, and we just did that for Mimi this year when we went and, you know, saw that and stuff, and so that hit hard. But it's done in a really well way. And then he, like, Liam, what's the guy's name from the first book? Lance is really bubbly and like the town helper, and he's really introverted and grumpy and kind of like brooding. And I guess I'm more attracted to brooding guys because I really loved Elijah. And he also has more PTSD. They all went through the same event, but he was like blown up, like he was like hit harder. And so there's one scene in here that made me cry because he has a PTSD attack, and it's portrayed so well. It really shows what veterans go through. And like the whole concept, one thing that like the saying is like, never wake up a veteran if they're sleeping, like don't try to wake them up. Like it's portrayed that way, and like she didn't know, and so she tried to wake him, and it just like, it was such a good and powerful scene. The action scenes are actually more, there's less of them, because this one more focuses on the romance. The last one I told you was like, oh, something would happen and immediately we're in an action scene. This one was more heavily focused on the romance, but the action scenes were more intense. I was really disappointed by the ending. I felt like the ending was rushed. It was like, bad thing happens, the scenario is always like the girl gets kidnapped and then the guy has to rescue her, and the whole bad guy thing is revealed, and then it all ends happily ever after. Not a spoiler, that's just the cut and paste.
Almost like a Scooby-Doo episode.
Yeah, basically.
Sorry, that was the first thing that come to mind.
Yeah, but
Scooby-Doo with romance. Like, Get it.
But in this case, it was like car accident. Guy gets unconscious, wakes up, she's kidnapped. Bad guy, from her perspective, reveals all of the twists and the plans, which was a legit twist. I did see it coming, but there was an extra twist thrown in there. And then from his perspective, they put it all together, find out where she's at. The bad guy had mentioned, oh, I left him a little present. And then so you expect that to happen. And it kind of does, but then the very next perspective, he's bursting through the door, rescuing her. So it was like, too solved, too quickly, too rushed, and then we had the happily ever after epilogue, and it was just over. And it was just like weirdly rushed, and so I was really disappointed by the ending. So when I started the third book, Searching for Serenity, or Second Chance Serenity, which is this one here, which is the one I'm reading now. I wasn't as invested into this couple, and I was disappointed by the ending of the last one, so I'm like, I'm probably not going to read this, and if I don't, I'm not going to finish this series. And then I kept reading it, and I started this book last night, and I am on page 163.
That seems to be a pattern with you, is you judge a book before you actually get far enough into it to get to the good stuff.
I know.
And then, like, well, see, somebody told me, I can't remember where I heard this, but I heard this somewhere when I was younger. Maybe it was like a teacher. But they said you need to read to at least chapter, like, 5 or chapter 10. And usually by then, you can get a good feel for the book. And if you don't like it by that point, just stop reading it, because you're just wasting your time.
Yeah.
When you could be finding another book that you really enjoy.
So I would say, I don't know, for me, this one is like the feelings are so much more intense. Basically, they were high school sweethearts, and he, like, they were they pledged to be married and all that stuff. And he literally left her with no goodbye and signed up for the army and just left. And she is so hurt. He's been back for 5 years, and she doesn't want anything to do with him, but he's like trying to earn her forgiveness. He's like always at these charity events, like, you know, town, because they both grew up in the town, whereas the other guys all kind of came in later on. And so the town like knows them really well, and he's always there trying to help. And then something happens, and she needs their security company and needs a bodyguard, and he's like wanting to be there, but she doesn't want him to be her bodyguard, so one of his other buddies has to do it. And the way that she's hurt, and it's her, like, the lines in this are so, you know, when you get the feels and your chest kind of like clenches for the character on their behalf because of whatever, like, I'm getting that a lot with both of them. And when, like, she basically, it was, the whole premise is like she was attempted kidnapping, and so somebody almost kidnapped her, and he was driving by and he saw it happen. God kind of like led him to the right place at the right time. And so he's worried, he's scared for her when she's in the hospital and all that stuff. And she doesn't want him in the room and stuff. And it's like, and then her brother shows up. And so her brother's like wanting to punch him in the face, and it's all this fun drama. But it was like, it's just, it's so feely, and I'm really into it and everything. And so, and it pulls a little bit of a Notebook situation where once he was overseas, he wrote her letters every day and she never read them. So it's kind of got that vibe to it. Yeah, and it's just, I don't know. And I think he's Asian, and I don't know. I'm a sucker for an Asian guy, so I just...
You always have been.
I can't help it. And then he has daddy issues. Like, the reason why he left is kind of like a family thing, and so then you got that added to it. And so I'm just kind of like a sucker for this story. I just binge read it last night. I was on page 4, and I got to page 163. So far, it's looking to be my favorite. We'll see. I hope the ending isn't rushed in this one, and I hope she breaks the mold of bad guy, twist, girl kidnapped, guys rescue girl. Like, give me a different end scenario besides just the girl getting kidnapped. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
So yeah, I'm excited. I can kind of read freely now since I finished my November TBR, which I mean I have been. So I'm hoping it would be nice to get this series finished before December, and then December I can focus on finishing the Wings of Night, Crowns of Naxia series thing.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm about a quarter of the way through Tower of Dawn. I'm enjoying it. It's a refresher, I think. Part of the reason why, I found that, like, I remember at one point there was one particular character that I despised, and you remember me reading that. I'm like, I hated this particular character.
Yeah.
I went from like loving them to hating them.
Yeah, that was our
in a matter of a book
reading challenge.
And
I remember you outburst.
Yeah, there was like two. That was like 2 books earlier.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I finished that book, and then Empire of Storms happened, and we're not around that character for an entire book, and now I'm kind of going back in time and reading that same chunk of time from this character's perspective. And so it's like, I've had enough time away from the character that I don't really hate the character as much as let's say I hated Vesta at the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. There's like a lot of moments where I feel like I'm getting just foreshadowing vibes, and I don't know why. I'm not sure if this guy is going to become a love interest for this particular character. Right. Or if he's going to make her think that and then turn on her. I can't tell. Because like there's times where like she'll just start talking, and I'll just like I grabbed some sticky notes at school because I was like, shut up, you're saying too much. And I was like, it's just, I don't know. I am very uncertain because it definitely has one of those vibes like it's too good to be true. Oh yeah. Like, and that there's more going on behind the scenes than what people from the outside see.
Is it 1 POV or 2, or like multiple POV?
2. No, 3.
3. Cool.
Yeah, there's the 2 main characters. There's the main character in this, the 2 main characters in this book, and then there's like the companion, which is more of like a side character, I guess, but not really. It's weird. Yeah. But yeah. Honestly, I feel more excited to start Crescent City than I do about finishing this series. That kind of the thing that's pushing me. I don't know. I don't know if it's. I don't know. I ranted about this. Well, I made like an 8-minute video while I was cooking dinner ranting about this already, so they're gonna get it twice. But I can't tell if it's because I read ACOTAR first. But it's just the character growth feels different in this book, in this series, than in that one. Right. It's just a completely different dynamic. It's not... I'm getting bored with this series more than I did with ACOTAR. Now, it's a longer series. It's a longer series, significantly. So, and I get that. But it's like, I don't know. It sounds to me like it possibly could be... what's the word? Not character driven, but plot driven. And ACOTAR may be character driven, and we're just more character driven kind of readers. The genre, they're definitely different genres. Like I've thought about that before. ACOTAR is definitely like a romantasy, for sure. This one is most definitely an epic fantasy. Yeah. I would say that's for sure. Now, there's more. They're bringing more. There's more romance in the later books. But I would say it's definitely epic fantasy because it's very, very plot heavy and plot driven. And it's like, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah,
but it's just different. Like, I think I was like, my disappointment from the last book is kind of being like, okay, after like this one's getting pretty good. And like the part that I was reading at dinner, when I was cooking dinner, was like pretty interesting. It was getting interesting because there's like there's a certain task this character has been sent to this location to complete. And that task is being proven more difficult than what they originally thought.
Right.
And there's more kind of darkness and more twistiness to it than what we originally thought. And so it's really intriguing. Cool. Yeah. And it's revealing some stuff. But it's like, I don't know. I want to finish the series. I'm not going to quit this close to the end. But I'm definitely not happy with the main female character from the last book. I'm just...
Yeah.
She was very lackluster in this last book, for me anyway. But so it makes me wonder how you would feel. Because like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I was wanting
the series. I
don't know if I wanted her attitude to change more than it did. Like I was expecting an attitude change, and she definitely acts. She's just her old self, and I'm like, that's just how she is, and I just need to accept that that's her personality.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that could be it. So I don't know. There's one particular character in this book that she's back to her homelands. And she's very happy, very almost carefree. And considering what Empire of Storms covers, I'm like, you should not be happy right now. There's so much that's going to end up happening. You should not be happy right now. This is not a happy-go-lucky moment.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, she's going to fall in love with this guy, and then he's going to betray her, and it's just going to be this huge thing. Which I don't know. That may not even happen. I suspect he's bad. I don't know how to feel about him. And that's the problem. And I just, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's the thing. A lot of people were sad about what happens at the end of Empire of Storms. I was more frustrated than sad. Like, it's one of those moments where I could see a lot of people crying, but I didn't. I was just more frustrated and be like, oh, okay.
Like the
so this is how it's going to be.
Kind of
offset. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know if it was just like a lackluster book and it was just kind of how I felt at the end. But that makes me wonder, like, because everyone always says that people need therapy after Kingdom of Ash. You know, like it's so sad that people need therapy.
Yeah.
When they read it. And I'm like,
I'd be interested to see if you're going to end up feeling the same way.
I know. You know. And it makes me wonder that, because honestly, ACOTAR, probably a romantasy is probably the best way to describe ACOTAR, because for the most part, every book has a happy ending. If you think about it.
Yeah.
Some sort of happy ending. Happy conclusion. Some sort of positive conclusion. Which would go along with romance, right? If you remember, you described that to me correctly.
Happily ever after or happily for now is the terms.
Okay, yeah. And I would describe that for ACOTAR. I would describe that for all of them so far.
Yeah.
And granted, we know the series isn't done yet. But considering this one isn't written like a romantasy, I wonder if the series is going to have a different ending than what I'm used to seeing from Sarah in ACOTAR.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that's going to work out and play out.
Because if that's how it's going to be, then honestly, I will be happy and excited because I'll get something different from Sarah than what we've already gotten.
Yeah, I understand.
You know what I'm saying?
Kind of how I'm feeling with these. It's like change it up a little bit, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and these are all probably going to end happily because they're true romances. But I just kind of want the scenarios to be different. And it's one of those things. Like, I'm sure you can empathize with this, or whatever word, with this a little bit. Like that, writers can sometimes have their favorite couple
or their favorite, they love their characters and they don't want to kill them off. So like, you know what I'm saying? I can get that to a certain extent.
I'm a little evil, so.
But you are notorious for killing off characters, so it's like you're kind of not with the normal that one,
tortured and tormented. So it's kind of
yeah.
No, I've gotten soft in my old age, so. But I'm writing romances now, so I can justify a happy ending. Okay.
Well, and it's like, I'm sure that there have been at least one couple in one of the series that you've read, you've written, that you didn't want to, that you really, really liked, and you would put them in near-death situations, but you would always bring them out of it because you didn't want to kill one of them off, right?
100%, yes.
And so it's like, I can totally understand that.
Yeah.
You know, that there's just some characters you don't want to kill off. Like, in ACOTAR, with spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't read it yet. Like, spoiler, like, Reese and Feyre are physically tied together. If one dies, the other dies. Like, that's it. So I can see why she wouldn't kill them off, because if Feyre dies, Reese dies. If Reese dies, Feyre dies, because that's just how their whole bond thing works. So I can see why it's always a happy ending for them. But it's like, there are certain things that happen in Empire of Dawn that I'm just like, it's feeling like is the Mary Sue the one where like everyone's like just power and they have all the skills to solve the world's problems? It felt kind of like that until the end, and the ending is the only thing that pulled it out of that.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things, I know this sounds horrible of me, but I want the character to be put into the thick of it just so they realize the consequences of how they say things and how they word things.
That's why the Mary
Sue, you know what I'm saying?
That's why the Mary Sue trope is called what it is because in order to make a good story, whether it's a male or a female, the character has to go through something and learn a lesson. And if there's nothing being taught, if there's nothing being learned, and it's like how the Bible always talks about how we, like, the bad things that we go through kind of make us stronger, and God uses it to test us. And like, it was kind of like a reference to silver being tried in the fire, kind of like blacksmithing and stuff. There's a lot of like blacksmithing references there. And it's like, like, we don't like bad things, and sometimes we read books to escape from them, but you have to put your characters through something in order for them to grow and learn a lesson and or face the consequences, you know.
And
like,
I guess and I guess and this particular character's been through enough bad stuff that in my eyes she should already be feeling some of that. And so I don't, and it's like making decisions without talking to people, or being hot-headed and just randomly spouting off stuff, or promising things that aren't really theirs to promise. And it's like, this is going to come back to haunt you. And and I hope it does, but if it doesn't, then I'm going to be super disappointed. And that's where I don't know if I'm just hesitant because I'm afraid that it's going to be the happily ever after ending. Because that's the only thing I've ever seen from Sarah. So it's like, I'm just I'm not.
You're afraid to read the final book because you're afraid of how it's going to end. Like, that's.
Yeah. And it's not because I'm afraid a character's going to die. It's because I'm afraid that the character's going to be fine again.
Yeah.
Or solve every problem because of a secret that they kept again. And it's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want it to be.
For all my young writers out there, that's why if you're building a series or even in a single book, you got to high up the stakes and build up the stakes so that the final book does feel like it has consequences. That'll when you get to your happy ending.
This series definitely does.
Yeah.
Well, and this series has definitely built things up. I think it's just I've gotten into a more negative mindset because it just seemed like, I don't know, like making choices. Conflict. It was like a repetitive cycle. And I'm just like, this feels like a filler book. Like, this feels like a filler book that introduces romances, and that's it. And that's where it's like, I just need a second. I need you to start this series so I can get your perspective on it. Because I don't know if what I'm feeling is just me being weird about it. Or if there's genuinely something there to it, because I don't know.
Glass. Oh my gosh, I'm all the way stuck at book 1.
I need you to start. I need you to start. Please. I'm struggling.
And then I really want to finish The Serpent and the Wings of Night. So
yeah, I want you to finish that series, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
want
you to finish
rant
that
is actually kind of the opposite. So I kind of want to... Rant is a strong word, but I want to nitpick a little bit at Christian fiction, which is ironic because I write in the Christian fiction genre.
You're more of a Christian fantasy, to be fair.
Yeah, I would say I have Christian themes, but I'm not really what you would consider in the box of Christian fiction. So the reason why I don't read it is because sometimes it's all sunshine and rainbows and like dancing through the sunflowers, and it's just too perfect. Now, these characters have flaws and there is conflict, and like it feels better, and I think that's why I can handle these. Oh, what irritates me...
Something else that happens is they make every church interaction stereotypical. Every conversation with the pastor is a stereotypical conversation with the pastor. They don't make it unique. They don't make it realistic. Like, I don't just go to a pastor, which my pastor's my dad, so it's kind of awkward because I go to him with all kinds of stuff. But it's like, I don't just go and ask about, like, a drug addiction or why does God allow bad things to happen? Like,
that is always the
those are common questions a lot of people ask. But it's like, not every person in the entire world goes up to a pastor and asks, why does God allow bad things to happen?
Yeah. But, so...
Be honest.
This one's a little bit better.
Anyway, sorry, continue.
It's okay. What really, I didn't realize I had this problem, but what irritates me is I get that we're not supposed to promote sin. All right? We're not supposed to promote sin. But none of the characters ever sin, and I didn't realize they don't smoke, they don't drink, they don't, cuss, they don't do this and that. Like, I'm not saying including cussing in your book or show drinking is okay. Or, like, some of the guys, like...
But you can include phrases like, he cursed.
That's what I do. But anyways, like some of the guys
you can include things like that.
Like this scene is what made me realize I have this problem where it was like the guy was like, I want to go kill this guy, and he's like, no, vengeance belongs to the Lord. And I'm like, you're an ex-military guy, so we know you've killed people before. And it's like the author doesn't want to say that, but it's like, David killed guys. He was a warrior. Like, I'm not saying it's okay to just go kill people, but like soldiers, warriors, protecting your country.
Moses murdered a guy. Moses was a Pharaoh's, the Pharaoh's son. He was a spoiled little rich guy that killed a man.
Yeah,
they killed a man and went into exile. Nobody in the Bible is perfect except Jesus. That's the whole point.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, can we please show some characters? Like, I know, like, because we know what we're supposed to believe, but like not every Christian follows it to the T or is shown to follow it to the T. Like, let's show them being tempted. Like, maybe this guy used to smoke and he's getting stressed because of insert whatever here, or just like, and show it as bad, but like every character in this is perfect. They're like these perfect little good Christians, and none of them, like, they do have their flaws, like especially the guy in the one I'm reading now, his name is Michael, which is my husband's name, so it's weird, but like Michael, not my husband, has like, he broke her heart and has all these issues, and like Elijah had anger issues and PTSD and stuff, but like it just really, it's just like, and I'm like, have you never seen the Southern American, classic American culture where we believe in our guns and we believe in God and we believe in sweet tea? Like, that is Southern America. Like, to awkwardly,
the Trinity of Southern, the Trinity of Southern America.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it's like, I'm sorry.
Okay,
and I'm a Christian,
thought with what you're saying. I thought with what you're saying, that concept in and of itself within Christian literature can be dangerous, because from like, to somebody who's not a believer, not a Christian, that doesn't understand that every single person that is a Christian is an imperfect person that is going to sin, that is going to fall into temptation, because everyone does that. Like, the only difference is that Christians will go somewhere different when they die. That's the whole point. But it's like, if you are portraying Christians in literature that everyone has access to, believers, non-believers, everybody has access to this literature. If you're portraying some idealistic version of a Christian that never sins, that always thinks, oh, God, vengeance is God's, every single time something bad happens or they have a negative thought, thinking like, oh, I shouldn't think this. I'm sorry. If I'm really angry at somebody, I'm going to think that horrible thing, and then maybe 2 days later, Lord's going to be like, hey, remember when you said this? You probably shouldn't have thought this.
Exactly.
And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Lord. Or he'll allow me to talk to that person that I was angry at, and I'll begin to see, hey, I did not have a good viewpoint. Like, I had a very skewed point of view of that person, and I was very inaccurate in my thoughts. That's not, like, people don't just go around being perfect in their thoughts and in their actions. That's not realistic.
It isn't.
And it paints a false view, because then when you look at believers in real life and they're not like that, it's like it turns people off. People don't even want to attempt to know or to learn about or just inquire or ask questions, because all they see is hypocrites, because people aren't like they're being portrayed, being explained, like, written about. So it's like it creates that contradiction almost, that it's like,
it really does. And that's why a lot of people are burned and hurt by the church in one way or another, is because the outside viewpoint is like, we're supposed to be perfect and we're hypocritical if we don't, and we think we're better than everybody else because I'm perfect. That is not Christian. That's not Christianity. That's not how we're supposed to be. That's not how we are. The whole point of the gospel is that we are imperfect and we need a savior. And I feel like, it, like you said, it portrays it. And that's why a lot of people don't like Christianity, or don't try to give church a chance and stuff like that. And so for me, like, I didn't realize that's why I don't read traditional Christian fiction, and why I write something that's like too Christian for secular people and then too gritty and secular for Christian people. And I have this weird box that doesn't go anywhere. And it's very niche, because like I do, like, it was a side character, but like my character Blake in the book I'm writing right now, he was talking with his war buddy Jake, and Jake grabbed a cigarette, and he's like, Blake kind of looked at him and he's like, I thought you quit. And Jake's like, these people are trying to kill us. I need a cigarette. Give me a break. And, it was kind of like, it was like a banter. And so it kind of like, it's wrong. It's portrayed as wrong. Blake got on to him, but he's still like, he's a human. He gets stressed, whatever. And as long as sin is portrayed in a bad way and your characters are working to try to overcome it, like, we're not always going to be able to overcome our vices. And so it's just like, it's hard to read those aspects sometimes. The Vengeance is the Lord's was the one that got me. And I don't know if it's because I'm also a fantasy reader, where give me a guy that will kill for his girl. And I am a psychopath for probably saying that. But it's like, I want a guy who's going to kill for me, Like, that's the kind of romance I want to read. And that may be weird in real life, like in the realistic books. But it was just like, it made me
like somebody that'll stand up for their partner. And it's like, and if it's one of those, I mean, like in a life or death situation, you don't want in a story, you don't want the partner to be like, sorry, I can't defend my spouse because vengeance is the Lord's. I must stand back and wait for some almighty being to strike them dead. No, that's not how that works. That's not how life works.
No.
I mean, and I'm sure there have been definite times where Michael has stood up for you and probably said some things that probably aren't very Christian-like, but he does it because he cares about you and he's going to defend you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like he's not going to stand back and be like, well, the Lord doesn't want us to think bad about these people, so sorry, Joanna, I can't defend you in this situation because we're not supposed to do this. It's like that's not realistic.
It's not.
And I can see what you're saying. It's like it's one of those genres that when you find a story, it can be really, really good. When you find one that's like written in such a way that's good, that like doesn't fall into that cookie cutter perfect portrayal of an ideal Christian story. When you find one that kind of breaks out of that a little bit, that's when you've got a good one.
And this is where
which I've read. There's one particular series that I've read that's kind of like that doesn't fit into that mold of like everyone being perfect.
And that's where I'm like unsure on my own personal books, like if I even want to label them Christian fiction, because that's not what. It's like weird because when people say Christian fiction, they mean that perfect little cookie cutter rainbows and flowers. And like my books are about Jesus Christ, and they do have themes of Christianity in them, but it's like not the right label. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of
I get it.
I've been thinking about a lot. So
I get that. And it's like, and when you think about like, it makes me think of like the like famous like theologians that it's like people like C.S. Lewis or Lord of the Rings, like, they weren't labeled as like
Christian
Christian
at all.
fiction authors. They were like,
heck, I'm sure Lord of the Rings has a
fantasy
lot of
writers.
non-Christian. Lord of the Rings probably has tons of just fantasy fans that aren't Christians at all.
Yeah. Like, for example, I looked up The Hobbit on Goodreads. The genres that are listed: fantasy, fiction, novels, literature, magic, young adult, children's, science fiction, British literature, and science fiction fantasy. And it goes and continues on. And you have several other, like, tons of other tags. But, like, getting the point is, like, if you have done your research on Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, and you know that they're both theologians, that they were both Christians or Catholics, or I don't know, I don't want to make statements because I'm very uninformed in that kind of thing. Yeah. I don't know exactly what. I know they were religious. Yeah. And they used to talk theology together. And it's like, and if you look close enough, you will see the parallels and some of those biblical themes woven into those stories. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, there's that controversial concept of, like, it's magic. So, like, and there's Bible verses that talk negatively towards witchcraft, and you have that whole big debate that happens. And it's like, but it's teaching those themes. Excuse me, that was really weird. Anyway, it teaches those themes in a way that just feels like telling stories. Yeah, and it feels and I you know, and it's like, I can see that. I can understand, like, where you're coming from. It's like, do I put that Christian fiction label, or do you just put, like, the labels, the non-Christian labeled labels, and then just go with it?
Because it makes me think of how Jesus, you often hear, like, how he ate dinner with sinners and was, you know, talking and interacting with them, and he went to kind of where they were to preach the gospel.
Told stories, He
didn't tell them, it's okay, keep sinning. He told them to stop sinning and to turn from your, you know, go and sin no more, is the actual phrasing.
To try to be better.
But like, and is that, like, my form of storytelling, going where the non-Christians are, you know, that kind of thing? I don't want to be like sinners, but you know what I mean? Like, going where the people are. Yeah. Because a lot of people may not even pick up a book if it's labeled Christian fiction, and because it gives them the wrong idea. And even a lot of Christians, like me, I like gritty stuff. So typically I'm not going to pick up a Christian fiction book because it's that happy-go-lucky, like, we're going to run through the field of flowers and it's too perfect. Not exactly like that, but you know what I mean.
There's a certain amount of cringe that I want, and it's typically a romancy cringe. Like, there's times when it's like, there was one book that I read that it was like, similar to The Mummy, and it had a very similar feel to The Mummy. It was in Egypt and all that other, but it was like a romance, and there were some moments where it was like a really, like, definitely more of a sappy romance, and I'm like, I just love this, you know, I just love the good stuff.
I want a good,
but it's like
romance,
when it's but it's like when it gets to the point where the entire book gives just this unrealistic expectation of a realistic group of people, then it's like, okay. When is, you know, I get that.
Yeah. So that was just something that I've realized, and it's not too bad. Like I said, the one that really stood out was he was angry that she got hurt and almost kidnapped, and he wants to go find the guy and deal with him. Like, it wouldn't come out and say he wants to go kill him, and he's like, vengeance is the Lord's. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, but are you gonna go kill the guy because he tried to kill your girl? Like, you know, that kind of thing. So, and that's the one that stood out to me. But they still have flaws. Like, he obviously like ran away, broke her heart, and joined the military. So he's still trying to, and she's not forgiving him. So a lot of it is dealing with, you need to forgive people even if it's hard. Yeah. Which is really hard. So it's like touching on good things, but it's just some of those things every once in a while that, like, oh, that's why I don't like Christian fiction. It kind of like it clicked in my brain. So yeah, that's pretty much that. I had another subject too I was going to bring up.
One thing that I forgot that I was going to mention. Yeah. One thing that I've noticed here, and I really kind of like, is that, like, one of the main characters went through a traumatic experience, and they're trying to get healing from that. And it's like the concept, or like this, the theme that I'm picking up, I think that's going to be kind of pursuing, is that sometimes healing is more than just physical. Yeah. Especially with traumatic events, that there's, like, along with the physical healing, you're going through emotional and mental healing as well. And I love that concept because I don't feel like people understand that it's like, yeah, like if I break my foot, yeah, my foot's eventually going to heal physically, but eventually I'm going to have like, or if it's like if I'm in a car crash and I may end up having PTSD from that experience. It's not all like I may be physically healed, which I've never been in a car crash, thankfully, thank the Lord. But if I were to ever be in a traumatic experience like that, yeah, you can feel physically, but there are so much more going on that you don't see from an outside eye. That it's like, it's just encouraging that concept of like acknowledging the things that you have, like those negative thoughts and negative feelings that you've been feeding, and like trying to heal from those things and work through those things in order to physically heal. I that's a theme that I picked up in this that I really like.
I feel like Sarah J. Maas
it's like I haven't seen that in the book.
Her ACOTAR, like you can see in the ACOTAR series the themes of like overcoming trauma in different ways, like how Feyre deals with it versus Nesta. The difference between how Feyre and Nesta deal with their trauma, it's very heavily focused on that kind of concept. Like Feyre with depression and how she doesn't want to go out and she felt trapped and like, that whole thing. And then Nesta being like the whole alcoholic intervention, get your life together kind of vibes. Like it's a fantasy thing and it's not in your face. It's very subtle, but like when you're looking for it, it's there kind of thing. And so I feel like I really do appreciate that Sarah J. Maas seems to deal with trauma in different ways. It's like realistic, because I love that too. Because like you said, it's not always like physical. Like when we had our car accident, I don't remember it specifically, but Mom told me later that she had a hard time getting behind the wheel of a car because she was driving and was hit head on. For those of you who don't know, when I was in the front seat when I wasn't supposed to be, and so like her mother had to just get in the car, just do it afraid, and kind of help her face her fears that way. And I remember the first time she pulled in and like got back home after driving, she was so nervous she accidentally locked Alicia in the car, my little sister. And so my mom was hysterical, and so our grandmother had to calm her down and actually like talk Alicia through how to get out of her car seat, get to the front seat, and unlock the car. And I remember that story. They used to tell me that story all the time. I don't remember because I think it was in third,
you were really young when that happened.
3rd or 4th grade. I think it might have been.
Yeah, I barely remember. I remember after you guys got out from the hospital and you're down at Mimi and Papa's and everyone came in to see you guys. I do remember that. But like that's the only thing I remember from that.
I remember the hospital. And the airbag had like burned half of my face, like the first layer of skin, and they didn't tend us, and I had to pee, and they let me up to go to the restroom, and I remember looking in the mirror and like freaking out because of the way my face looked, like horrified me. That's the only thing I remember, really.
Yeah.
But other than the story of how the guy mysteriously, like Mom couldn't get the door open and the people weren't helping, and he went over, this guy we didn't know or recognize went up, pulled the door open, pulled me out and laid me down, and then nobody ever found him or knew who he was. So
that's cool.
Car accident story. But yeah, that's but yeah, so like we said, like just trauma is sometimes internal,
but it's like it's like just like directly talked about and like directly mentioned, like that concept of like this particular character is going to have to face the emotional stuff that he won't talk about, or they won't talk about. Yeah. Like they're going to have to talk about that stuff that they've been refusing to talk about, and they're going to have to face it. And it's like, I haven't actually seen that in like portrayed in a book before. And I honestly I like it. I appreciate it. Like I think that's a really unique aspect.
I can't just skip to that.
Oh no, you can't just skip to this part because you will miss so much.
Oh, you know me, I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff. I don't know why, but I get maybe it's like the relatability to it or something. It just appeals to me. Like
I get that. Yeah,
and that goes back to like some people will love the happy-go-lucky Christian fantasy because they want to read about stuff that's not crappy in their lives, and that's totally valid. And some people, definitely. I don't know why, but I want to read about people whose lives are worse than me. Like that is my escapism. So give me wars, give me battles, give me torment and torture, and I'm here for it. But so it's just like it's really interesting to like think about the dynamics of like the kind of like books that people really love to read and like what tickles your fancy may not tickle somebody else's fancy, that sort of thing. I've been using that phrase way too much lately. I need to come up with something else.
Let's see. Sarah is apparently drafting the next ACOTAR book. I saw that in an interview.
I want to talk about
I
that.
freaked out about that.
I'm so excited. And I love what they were how she talked about in the thing. She used the example of it really writing a book when you're into it feels like a crush when you're a teenager, where you're constantly checking your phone to see if they've texted you and you're constantly thinking about them. I've never heard anyone actually describe what that's like, because I feel bad because I get obsessed and everything else doesn't matter, and I don't message people as much. I ignore email. I haven't answered my emails for like a week. I've barely been able to keep up with Immortals release because I'm just so into writing, and that it's like that that focus. That's exactly what it feels like. It's just like you're focused on your obsession, your crush, which in this case is our books. And it touched me because I'm like, I'm not the only one. It's a normal thing for writers to do. It's okay. So that was really nice. But I'm excited she's finally, and the thing is, because I didn't want her to write it and be reluctantly like, oh, I'm just writing this because the next book needs to come out. Like, I'm glad she's enjoying it. That's what I'm excited about.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
I'm also almost out of water. I also need to take my hoodie off, so I will cut this part out. See if I can do this as gently as possible, but it's really, really cold. But like in all my talking and everything, I'm getting really hot. So as soon as I take this off, I'm writing up.
I'm writing up a review from, finishing up a review from 2013.
Oh my goodness!
It's the Martian, the book called The Martian. Oh it was made into a movie.
Yeah, I love that movie. Actually, it's really good. It's really heavy. I feel like my brain, like the sci-fi stuff.
It's really heavy, but it's like I like the concept that, and that was kind of something I was mentioning in here, is like in the movie, I feel like it speeds through everything. Like it feels like it's on fast forward, because it doesn't really feel like he was there for that long. But it's like when you read it read the book and you're looking, because like each of his chapters are like a video. It's like when he in the movie, when he is like doing like the video recordings, like that's like his chapters. Right. And it's like, and you see like there are so many things that have like mess ups. Like there's so many times where he's had to put in like tons of hours of research and thought process to figure out like, how do I make these things work? How do I start growing things? And once things start growing, like how do I sustain this? And like doing that, like actually working through the math of like, how many calories do I need to eat? And in order to make this possible, and like in every opportunity, every moment, it was like this understanding that he's not going to have enough to make it. Yeah. To the time that he thought he needed to make it to. Like it's like always with that concept of like, he's not going to have enough. There's not going to be enough. And then when something happens that sets him way back, then it's like now there's even less. And so it's like,
I remember the one scene where he accidentally calculates something. I remember the one scene where he accidentally calculated something and it caused this thing to blow up, and it like ruined a bunch of stuff, and it hurt him and stuff like that, something to that effect. It's been a long time since I watched the movie, but so that and Interstellar, I definitely liked it. That movie and Interstellar, I'm sure the book's even better. Like I'm always a book's probably better than the movie thing, but that movie and Interstellar, I feel like are just really good sci-fi. Okay. Oh, so good. Yeah.
Well, and honestly, I felt like, because most of the time when I watch a movie first, I can't actually read the book because I can't picture it in my head. Yeah. But it's like the stuff that they showed, the stuff that they showed was stuff, I feel like for the most part was stuff from the books. It's just, it was like the extra bits where there's like extra bits, extra thought processing, extra math, extra science, extra thinking that was just cut out. Yeah. And like extra, like you don't see where he has like training and taking all the, there's just extra things that happen in between the main things in the movie that you don't see. So it's like it wasn't actually hard to read. I found because it's like the movie give me like the setting, like allowed me to like picture the setting. And because it's just him, it's like you can't screw it up too much and get too far away from the books. Yeah, from the movie, like, you know, because it's just him.
As I feel like as readers, we always want, like when we want a movie adaptation, give us a 17-hour actual adaptation with every single detail from the books. And I like, and so whenever like you have to cut things for screen time, like it sucks. So I like, it's really interesting because I've been to school for the screenwriting. So, but I'm also a reader and I'm also a writer. So like I want all of the details, but like I understand the other side of it too. So it's that subject always fascinates me of how you can best adapt something. And that's why I will always say that if you're going to adapt a book, make it a TV show, please, because that will give you the most screen time. And it's like you could do a chapter as an episode. So you could do a season as a book. You know what I'm saying? And like you could easily, like, not necessarily that wouldn't be so even, but it like, because I've thought
and if you look at it from that perspective, then you have like a series like Throne of Glass that would be like a 5-6 season show that it's like, and you have the fan base to back it up. And please, I can see what you're saying.
People do this, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what I've thought with, because I've taken Immortal and turned it into a TV show, and it ended up being so the modern day storyline is just way different, and I've had to like you have to focus on like what's the nitty gritty of the story and portray that and stuff. But speaking of which, the adaptation of ACOTAR, I think it was. I was reading a couple articles about that. It's been weeks ago, so I don't remember the details, but a lot of people just talking about like who they would want to see as Rhysand. Like the whole thing is Henry Cavill. Everybody is obsessed with Henry Cavill right now. I saw one fan thing that was like, just cast him as everybody in the whole series. Just Henry Cavill. And I like, it's really
for the one-man show.
So that
he'll always be Superman for me, though. I can't see him as anything else. And I don't want to typecast him as a Superman, but I just loved the original Superman. I loved Man of Steel, so that's my issue. I really liked that movie. I didn't like the one they brought Batman and all the other into it, and they kind of turned him bad for a time. Like, I get that there's actually a comic that talks about that, where Superman turns bad or whatever, blah blah blah. Like, I like the word Superman like dies at one point in the comics, and like I get that's canon. I just like the first one. I just like it. Just give me the vibes that I wanted.
I'm still like, I'm just a Smallville girl. I said that all wrong. Small girl. I am tiny.
Smallville will always be my favorite, though.
I can't see anybody else as Superman than Tom Welling.
And it's like,
which is okay. Like, for me, I've also seen The Witcher, which Henry Cavill does really well, and I can't watch season 2 because it got the nudity in that one got even worse than Game of Thrones. So we're not watching that. I really want to though, and oh my gosh, he is so amazing as The Witcher. And so it's like really hard, but like you can see how he could be Rhysand based on of how he portrayed The Witcher. And so I'm trying to think of other movies that he's been in. I feel like he deserves to have more roles, you know what I mean? Like, because he's such a good actor. Yeah. And I've heard that he actually has refused to do like nudity scenes anymore because he doesn't like how it's like like I can't remember exactly, but he was in an interview one time and he talked about how he won't do nudity scenes and stuff. So it's like good for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, a lot of people love the idea of Henry Cavill as Rhysand and everything. So
I don't see Rhysand as this overly bulky guy. In my head, I don't know. I see like Tamlin as more of a bulkier guy because he's the beast.
Too.
I see Cassian as a bulkier guy. I don't see Azrael as a bulkier guy. I see him as more of like I don't know, in my head. No, whether that's actually canon to how they describe them in the book, I have no idea. I don't overanalyze for those things. I just read it like it's a movie for the story.
Yeah.
So I don't pay super close attention to like detail, like that kind of details of stuff, you know. But it's like,
I feel like whoever does has to portray how intimidating he is and how he kind of
his personality.
Yeah. With that hidden kind of
he definitely starts out as a morally gray character, like more of like cockier attitude, but in a way it's like is this guy bad or is this guy good? Like, it's like you can't quite tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's like, has that mystery factor. I feel like the person that they pick for him really, really needs to do the research and actually read the books. That's the make or break if they do anything.
Yeah.
And
to be like,
as we know from Disney or certain companies,
I bash on Disney.
They don't
all the
always.
time, so.
They don't always do their research when you're entering a fandom. If you are entering a fandom for the first time, do some type of research. If it's just watching YouTubers react to watching the movies instead of actually watching the movies, do that. Look into it somehow.
Yeah.
You know, look up like popular clips from a character. You know, it's just like do some type of research before you don't just jump into an entire series that has years of backstory. Just go in blind. Don't do that.
I've told you this
because you're going to make more enemies than fans.
Yeah, I've told you this personally many times, but like I remember in college when we were learning how to write TV show scripts and how you're probably not going to write your own TV show. You're going to be a writer for another fandom, another universe, and you got to read that that TV show story Bible and stick to the rules. And our whole assignment for that entire class was picking a TV show, doing your research, and making sure you wrote an episode that does fit in with that TV show. Doing your research. And I'm like, how are these mainstream companies like Lucasfilm and stuff not doing that? You know, like the Acolyte.
Yeah. No, I get that.
My reviews on Acolyte, so I'll have episode 1 linked here as a card. But yeah. Well, I think that's all we need to do. We need to talk about and discuss for today's check-in, because it's going to be a long episode, our November TBR, because we did the check-ins so many the first couple weeks, and then this episode, this clip alone is 54 minutes long. So I'm like, this is going to be like a 4-hour podcast. This will be great. I love it, though. We're having so much fun.
That's funny.
Yeah. So we will check in with you guys for week 4, even though I've completed my TBR list. But I do genuinely want to see if I can finish the series, because I'm on the 3rd book and there's only 3 main guys. So I'm like, who are the next 2? I want to know. So, and those will be the last 2 in the series. Yeah. And if I keep to my average of like 3 to 4 days per book, I may be able to do it. So
cool.
Yeah. So that's like my objective goal. But yeah, so we will check in with you guys later. Next week, maybe, or whenever. Bye.
Yeah, we might do something on Thanksgiving. Who knows?
Hey guys, so this is me checking in for my November TBR, which is done, but I really want to finish this Coastal Hope series before the end of November, so that's kind of like a revised goal. However, I just finished Second Chance Serenity about an hour ago. I've been sitting on here on the couch. I filmed my review. I wrote my reviews on my phone. I posted them everywhere. I had to post on social media for other things. So things have been kind of crazy, and that's why it took me so long. But I did finish Second Chance Serenity. Oops, I did the wrong thing. Which is book 3. So far we've got book 1, 2, and 3 done. I now know what book 4 is going to be, and I'm excited for it. And it's called Tactical Revival. So, you know how I mentioned I was curious as to, once the 3 main guys were done, who the other 2 were going to be? Well, throughout the series, there's this detective that they work with. So Lance, Elijah, and Michael are the 3 guys in book 1, 2, and 3. And they work with this detective, LAPD detective called Jackson. And he's actually, in this book, in the 3rd one, he finally moved. He helped them in the first 2. And then in the 3rd one, he moved to the town. And he's staying in the B&B in town with the main guy, Michael, from the 3rd book. His sister owns the B&B. And so he's been staying there. And so this next book, I read the blurb, it's about him, and the detective, Jackson, he's a Marine, so he didn't serve with the guys, but they met in a VA hospital. He broke his back, and his wife left him or something like that, and then I think he's going to have a romance with Michael, the guy from the 3rd book. His sister owns the B&B, and her husband left her and walked out on her and her 13-year-old son, and in book 3, Michael has been having to help a little bit with his nephew, the 13-year-old, because his nephew's
been having behavioral issues due to the dad leaving. And so it kind of has an interesting premise. And so I'm really curious about that one. And on top of that, in the third book, along with that, they brought in this new guy named Silas, who is, I remember now that he's the one I was most interested in because his blurb sounds the most good. So, and his is going to be book 5. So I have 2 books left in the series, Tactical Revival, and I just started it. So I'm going to sit down and actually keep reading. And it's 12:54, so it's almost 1 o'clock on November, I want to say it's the 22nd for me because I haven't gone to bed yet, although it's technically the 23rd. So it took me 3 of my days. So if you don't count like that I'm reading in that I read in the AM a lot on the next day, I finished book 2 in 3 days. So I'm thinking about doing a video and putting up the stats for like all the books, like my star ratings, how long it took me to read each one and all that stuff. And due to this series, Jessica Ashley is now listed on Fable's my favorite author, and my whole little spiel has changed. I can't show you guys because I'm on my phone right now and it's on my phone, but it's something about how I love her, like basically I love heroes, male heroes and stuff like that. It was really funny. So I'm like, okay, this is changing my thing. So I got to read some fantasy to get back into like what I normally read but I'm really enjoying the series. So I'm going to sit down, read a little bit, and I'll check in with you guys next time. Let me get that cleared. I'm in a moment by you. You're fine. So I actually didn't do a personal check-in for this, but I just forgot. I did.
I'm proud of myself.
I'm really proud of you. I finished Tactical Revival, and I filmed my review last night, and I started the last book in the series, which is Perilous Healing, and that's the one I've been looking forward to seeing the most. So I started it last night, and I'm on page like 82 or 84 already.
Did you figure out, did they introduce the main character for that one?
Yeah, he's a Navy SEAL, which, for reference, my military romantic suspense, they're all Navy SEAls. So most of the guys in this one are Army guys. We have an LAPD guy who used to be a Marine, and he was the one in Tactical Revival, the last book. This guy's a Navy SEAL. So I'm like, we're kind of jumping around a little bit. So I finally have a Navy SEAL guy, and he was actually captured by this drug lord, and who like interrogated and tortured him for a while. So he's got a lot of trauma from that. And in his escape, he rescues this woman, and she actually turns out to be Bianca. This one, she's like an army medic that worked on like the other 3 guys after that one incident with the deployment and stuff. So she's been hanging around the last few books. Turns out her and Silas know each other because he rescued her as well, and they had to survive in the jungle for a while before they got like rescued or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But she turns out to be the daughter of the drug lord, and so Silas hates her because she lied to him about it, and all this is getting outed, and her dad's coming after her again and stuff. So I think I'm burning out with not just the series, but like the genre. It's just the happy-go-lucky, everything always works out. Like the last one really hit hard because the main 2 couple both had divorced from their spouses, and then the main guy, Jackson, his parents were also like not also divorced.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
Him. Yeah, and so it hit close to home, and there was a lot of really good stuff there. But by the end of it, not just one, but both of their spouses like reconcile, get happy. The ex-husband of the main woman, he's gonna get help. Sorry, I thought I heard something. He's gonna get help and go into rehab for his alcoholism, and like everybody just all ends up happily. Like it's literally like the dad's gonna try to be a better father for his son, and I'm like, that's not how that works. That is not. Not everybody wants to get better, and not everybody wants to better themselves. Sometimes you just don't have a good relationship with your dad. Sometimes the spouses don't reconcile. Sometimes, and it's too happy for me, which is honestly, I feel bad. But it's just
honestly, it's funny because I was thinking, because like earlier I made a video for YouTube yesterday, and I added it to TikTok asking a question about how a character was acting, and so I got a few responses on TikTok that I didn't get on the others. But so I was thinking about doing another one, but that kind of brings up kind of the topic that I was honestly already thinking about, is like, because like there's it's one of those things where when like, I don't know, it's like that idea that you could have like this perfect city where they respect each other's differences, they live together in harmony and all these other factors. And then it's like, instantly you go into this like, well, this doesn't seem right. Like there's something either like this is too good to be true or this is too unrealistic or whatever. And it's like it comes into like this perspective of like how our world is just so divided and so dark that it's like when a city that's not dark is portrayed in a book or a couple that just works out, it's like it almost seems unrealistic. And it's like I kind of feel bad because I'm like expecting this city that's like portrayed as like this perfect city. It's like this is going to go wrong. Like there's evil in the background, there's somebody's going to be betraying somebody, there's somebody, it's like there has to be something bad about this city. And it's like I hate, like I almost feel guilty for like halfway thinking that way, but it kind of connects with what you're saying. It's like the couples all, it seems like they all have a happily ever after when we're expecting, like we've grown so used to not having a happily ever after all the time in life that it's like when we read too many of those in books or too many situations where it's like too good to be true, it's like our brain instantly goes to like, let's look for the negative, let's look for what's wrong. Like you know what I'm saying?
This one being Christian fiction, it like portrays it as always pray to God will always answer your prayers, and it's like, and then it creates this, well, he doesn't answer my prayers, and it makes you not really angry with God because I'm not like that, but you know what, it creates a wrong mindset about expectations from God. And then it's like Jackson and Margot ended up happily ever after. Margot's ex-husband went to rehab, he's going to try to be a better father, so they kind of worked things out. Jackson reconciled with his dad, who abandoned him.
Almost like the ideal scenario.
And then he also reconciled with his ex-wife, and it's like that's not how real life works.
It's like,
and it's just so.
It's like the most. It's like the most ideal scenario happens.
Yeah.
Or like they meet the people that act perfect the way that they're supposed to be for that scenario to work out perfectly fine. Yeah.
And then get that. So you know how we had talked about the vengeance is mine and like nobody sins or whatever. The weird thing about this though is that nobody bats an eye about the divorce and the remarriage. And it's weird because like these people in the characters in this are like, I can't get angry, I can't do this, I gotta go to church. You know, being good little Christians, which is fine. That's whatever. But then nobody's questioning you got a divorce. Like in my experience, there are churches out there that really ostracize people who have gone through divorce, especially if you get remarried. Like I know of a couple who, I don't know if it was the man's fault or the woman or mutual, but he basically got a divorce. He got remarried and him and his wife were both kicked out of the church that they were attending because they were remarried and the church felt like they were living in sin. And so for me, I don't care what side of the argument or debate you take about that. Biblically, like that's irrelevant. For me, the weird part was that nobody even discussed it. None of the characters brought it up. Like, oh, well, because you're divorced, you can't get remarried, so you and Jackson shouldn't be together. You know, and like nobody even
even mentioning the if anything, mentioning the verses where it like references like, I'm pretty sure there's one particular verse that I know my dad who's a minister mentions frequently when it comes to that whole debate on whether divorce, like remarriage is a thing, like, you know, and it's like, it mentions something about like adultery and being unfaithful. And if the spouse is unfaithful, then that is grounds for divorce, or like if they break that vow of like, that whole concept of like, and it's like, but I can see what you're saying. It's like in the real world, if this is, and it's supposed to be like modern day, right? And so it's like, and you would expect it to kind of have some of those underlining issues that like, honestly, might be good to be referencing in like a faith-based.
I thought about doing a book with divorce and dealing with those heavy topics like remarriage and the divorce and like reconciliation and what happens if you can't reconcile. Like I know personally, my mom has chosen to stay single because of it. And so, and again, I don't care if you took a stance. Some characters take a stance. Like I am one of those people. I'm like right in the middle. So like I'll just go.
You just want it mentioned.
Yeah, I just wanted somebody to talk about it. And then
I get
the
that.
ending was disappointing because she fell back into that, the girl's going to get kidnapped. The bad guy reveals the plan. The bad guy is this woman who you wouldn't least expect, but I'm expecting it because I see the pattern, and then he rescues her and it all ends happily ever after. I'm so annoyed. And then the girl who is behind it, I called it first scene she was in there. I'm like, she's going to be the bad guy. And she turned out to be the bad guy.
Okay. So question.
Yes.
Do you think because I've seen several book series do this. Do you think it is a situation where it's the same skeleton, but just the plot, the chain, like the characters and the setting and the plot change?
Yeah.
Not so much the plot, but the characters and the setting and the situation.
I want to say it's just the romance, this traditional romance genre where you have a series of standalone romances. So it's a different name, a different couple, but the same circumstance, the same kind of, like you said, skeleton of a plot, just details are kind of changed along the way. And so for me, the third book, given that they were both kidnapped in the middle, really changed it, and then they had to survive. That changed things up a lot. And so that's why, and this last one, I don't know if I should have started with it first because I was looking forward to it, so I wouldn't have been burnt out. By the time, like, now I'm here and I'm excited for this book, but I'm kind of burnt out. So,
okay, or do you feel like setting that book aside and waiting and coming back to that would help? Because like I've done that. Like there have been times like with ACOTAR series and Throne of Glass is like I could have told if I would have continued when I was feeling that burnout or feeling that lag. Like it's almost like I hit this stumping point where I would much rather be doing something else other than reading that book. When normally I am like with all the other books previously, I have been like, I have to read this. I have to read this. I have to read this. Like, I don't want to listen to music right now. I want to listen to the audiobook, you know, like, and it's like when I feel that point where it's like, I would much rather play Subnautica, or I'd much rather play Skyrim, or I would much rather watch Queso or Phil, or, you know, Philza, whatever. Like, I would much rather be doing these things than reading this book. And it's like, I honestly, for me, I would just stop right where I'm at in the book and then read like 2 or 3 other ones that have nothing to do with the series. Like completely. And honestly, it's a Fae thing for me. Like I get burned out with Fae. And then I'll read like couple other books that have nothing to do with Fae at all. Like the vampire
the Serpent and the Wings of Night.
Serpent and Wings of Night. Like it had nothing to do with Fae at all. And it's like because it was completely new, I was like eating it up. Yeah. By the way, the new book came out on the 20th and I'm like needing to go to Target to see if they have it. Ooh. Just so you know. Just so you know.
Tomorrow.
Anyway. But it's like, I know. It's what I'm thinking. I'm like,
and for me, like, I would if there were more books, but because this is the last one, I'm on page 80 out of like 300. I'm like, I can knock this down really quickly and just get through it. But I do see what you're saying. But is it one of those things like, would you enjoy it better if you'd stop for a while and like just set it aside and just put it on like your TB, like just put it a couple books down on your TBR and say, I am going to read it. I am going to finish the series, but I'm just not doing it right this second because my mood doesn't match this book right now. I think for me, it's a discovery that I don't really like the genre. Like I want the secular military romantic suspense that gets gritty. And those get spicy, and so I have to read the Christian one, but then the Christian one doesn't get gritty enough, and it's like, I'll just write my own. You know what I mean? So, it's like this. I was just thinking, I'm like, so this is the point where you just continue the series that you're currently starting, and you just write what you want to see. Yeah, pretty much. Like, I'll just keep writing my own books, and it'll be fine. And I really, like, it's also eye-opening, though, because it made me realize I actually don't think I write traditional Christian fiction, because my books do not fit that mold. There's no, I mean, it's not like they end happily, honestly, but it's not perfect. There's a level of realism and grit that they're more grounded in reality. I feel like this is like some perfect little paradise named Hope Falls or whatever it's called that just doesn't exist. Isn't it Hunter that like opens up with a guy being whipped? Isn't that like in Hunter? I think that's Dark Magi. Is that Dark Magi? Yeah. But one of them starts out and it's like when you look at it that way, it's like none of the traditional Christian fiction novels are gonna get that intense. But it's like sometimes it's like that's why like there's like bands like Skillet that sound too much like the secular music for them to be truly played on a Christian radio. Yeah. But yet they still have amazing Christian themes and lead a lot of people to Christ because they don't fit that mold and they don't place themselves in that mold. And it's like sometimes you just have groups and books like and
who's to say that can't apply to books?
I'm the author.
You're basically Skillet. That's just what we.
I love that.
But it's like that's the only example I could think of at the time. But it's like because you and I went to a Skillet concert, and it was like so eye-opening for me to see like
because a lot of them were like rock
community
stars,
of Christians
like,
and a stereotype.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like it did not fit like a stereotypical Christian concert at all. It was a rock concert.
It was a rock
but it's
concert.
like
I felt
they're talking. It's like it's like, but it's I've never been in that kind of environment before. But it was like I had the best time of my life, and it's like all the people that we met there were like amazing people.
I still remember
and it's like, but at the same time,
the guy who was behind us who photographed us.
Yeah, they were the best. I loved them. They were awesome.
Oh my
but
God.
it's like one of those things. It's like you have like who's to say you can't have novels like that?
Yeah,
that it's like
I never thought about that before, dude. You're opening my eyes. This is wonderful.
Well, it's like I mean, honestly, if you look at it like Lord of the Rings and like Chronicles of Narnia, like you have
either
like, no, and even back when they were released, like you had
dark. You know what I'm saying? Like in a good way. You know, because to me, it's like you have to show evil in order to see the light, whether it's fantasy or just true light. Oh yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and so, like for example, like stories like honestly, I like when I got into my Lord of the Rings phase, the books that Christopher Tolkien, his son, released. Telling stories from like the first and second age, like some of those stories are phenomenal, but it's like you can definitely see they don't fit into that traditional mold because it's like the city of Gondolin, like the hidden city of Gondolin was one of my favorites, but it's like you had this elf that was in love with like pretty sure it was like a cousin and he literally spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't ever read that and you plan to, but he literally sells out this whole hidden city that no one ever, like literally everyone in no one knew where it was unless you were supposed to be there.
Right.
And he goes to the enemy, is it Sauron?
Sauron. Yeah. Sauron, I think.
His boss.
Oh.
The bad guy.
Yeah.
The bad guy that started all of this mess. He goes to him and sells out the location because he's mad that she fell in love with a man.
Ooh,
and not him. And it's like you wouldn't see that in a traditional. And then you have like this whole like mass murder of all of these people except for a small group that end up leaving. And it's like that's some of the elves that like we later see in like Lord of the Rings. It's like their descendants and that kind of stuff. And it's like you would never have like seen anything like that in like some of these new like traditional type like the
fiction stuff
Christian, like the molds that they try to put like Christian fiction in and it's like you wouldn't see some of those themes and some of those things and it's like the ultimate like good overcoming evil but it's like sometimes you have to get like gritty with it. You have to get
and don't get me wrong, like if you're the kind of like if anybody watching this is the kind of person to just want a happy-go-lucky book,
most definitely,
because it helps you escape from reality, like that's fine. I need to be more grounded in reality because then it makes me almost angry about my own life. Like not that my life is bad, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
no, I get that.
I don't like seeing things all work out happily, like perfectly. Like the main couple can get together and be happy, but like he didn't have to reconcile with his dad or one of the exes didn't. Both of them, you know. But the other thing that was irritating, and this is the thing that I'll have to talk about on this, was the plot line was set up like he put away this serial killer and people were going missing and the serial killer leaves like a playing card and it would go up, it would stay in the same suit, but it would go up every victim to like number the victims. And so they started having that come in. And so it's like, oh, the serial killer he put away is coming for revenge. And it set up this really intense, suspenseful plot. Spoiler alert. It was this waitress at this diner that had a crush on him that was just trying to like pretend to be kidnapped to want him to notice her. And I'm like, that's so disappointing when you set up this really intense plot and then it's just the stupid waitress. Like when she was kidnapped, I was like, she's acting like she's kidnapped. She wasn't really taken. Like that's kind of what set it off for me. And so it just it kind of ruined the plot for me. And so that was disappointing. That's why
did it make it almost kind of predictable?
Yeah, it was extremely predictable. Like the first scene she was in, I'm like, she's giving me jealous vibes. And then, like I said, when she was kidnapped, I never believed she was actually kidnapped. I 100% was like, she's faking the kidnapping. I don't know if it's connected to the serial killer stuff, but she's for sure faking it. And so it was kind of like, yeah, her and her mom were the tag team behind it. Like,
well, and that concept of like the same things happening and making it predictable, like I won't go into detail because I know you don't want spoilers, but it's like part of what like I was discussing in some of my shorts about, and part of my like critiques for Empire of Storms was that like certain decisions, it felt almost predictable.
Yeah.
By the end of the book, and I'm like, well, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. And you know, and it's like, and then at the but up until the very end, when you get to the end of the book, which I guess is kind of stereotypical for Sarah J. Maas at this point, because that tends to happen, is like you get your plot twists, and it's like, but honestly, it's like I get frustrated at a character, but it's like if you can write a book in such a way that makes your readers feel emotion, then you're doing a good job. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And it's like she was written very well, and it's like it's one of those things like it's kind of almost like how I had to come to terms with Nassan, like focusing so much on Japan because it was important to him as a character. Like I'm having to come to terms with like she's doing like the character does certain things because she's experienced, and I had honestly forgot, which I guess is one of the negatives to reading Assassin's Blade first, is like a lot of the stuff that happened in that one, it's kind of further back in my brain. So it's like if you read it in the middle of the series, you're more fresh about what happens and a lot of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's like that's just one of the downfalls for me reading it first chronologically, is that some of that explanations as to why she does certain things the way she does partly comes from that too. Yeah. And that's what some of the people in the comments were saying. And I'm like, I'm not nearly as frustrated with her as I was. And I'm glad this takes a step away from her because I needed some time to just reflect on that before I jump straight back in. So it's like, that's honestly what I would say is like, one, I'm really, I'm liking this one. I was going to ask I like the whole new, I like being in a whole new continent. Like the city feels almost too good to be true, and I don't know if that's me picking up on the foreshadowing of something else, right? Or if it's generally meant to be like that good kind of that good place, because it was like certain characters, like I don't know, it just seems like they're always praising the city of how good it is compared to where the rest of the series is currently at, like the rest of the countries, like at the kingdoms, like with the other continent. And it's like they're always comparing this one as being better than that.
I wonder if it's going to set up like a falling, like where you either fall in love with the city and it's going to get destroyed, or it's going to turn bad. To me, that's almost and like, that's where it's like I can't quite figure out. Like part of me, because like, and there's been times where like I pulled out like the transparent sticky notes because there got to one point where I'm like, there's times where I'm like I hate this place. It feels like a mirage, too good to be true. Like I've written that several times. Like it just, it feels it feels too good. And that's where I almost feel halfway guilty because I'm just like in life, I'm so used to things not being that way. Yeah. And it's like, kind of going back to what we were talking about. I don't know if it's like the Adrelai. I don't know if I'm saying that right. The main kingdom. Yeah. Like there's problems. There's like, it has its negatives as well as its positives. And I don't know if it's like, because that feels almost like the real world, that it's like, I'm more comfortable reading that because I'm used to that kind of thing. And it's like when we're introduced to this city that's like, from an outside perspective, it feels almost perfect. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. I'm having to kind of, it's not something that's wanting me to stop reading. I don't want to get that kind of impression. Like I'm really enjoying it. Yeah. But it's like something that I'm pondering that like I haven't truly decided if because there is kind of darkness in the background that's like festering. But I don't know
if it's the kingdom, this city, or if it is things coming into the city. So if the city is just this good and the darkness is kind of like invading, or if it's like the darkness is coming out of the city and we're not seeing it yet. I haven't figured out the source of where it's coming from yet. And so that's where I'm like, the city feels too good to be true, but maybe it's supposed to be that way. You know, maybe it's supposed to be like Gandalf, like what Gandalf the White coming over the hill. Maybe that's just what the city's supposed to be, but I haven't quite figured that out yet.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting concept. It kind of brings about that interesting thing that we were talking about. Like, is there something wrong with us because we just want bad, or we're expecting bad, or wanting to read bad things? Like, I don't know.
I know.
You know? I was reading like the last book and I felt so horrible because every time they would pray, I would get so annoyed. And I'm like, I'm a Christian. I'm not supposed to be feeling this way. But it's like, there was one scene where it was like, oh, just pray God won't let anything bad happen to you. And I'm like, well, that's not how that works, or at least in my experience, that's not how that works.
God will give, I would have rephrased that to say God will give you strength to get through the tough times. Yeah. Because there's times where God's not going to just pluck you up out of this horrible situation and plop you down into a good, because then why would you need to have faith in him? Exactly. Why would you need to rely on him? Yeah. And it's like, he's going to give you strength you need to get through these bad situations, because ultimately, through the end of that journey, he's going to get the glory for it. Mm-hmm. And that's 100%. The whole goal. And I feel like it's going to strengthen your relationship with him. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's like, honestly, you could argue that some of like, you know, I can see that. Like, and that could be like,
yeah, I kind of get where the person's coming from, like the author and stuff, and I appreciate the effort, and like anybody who writes that kind of Christian fiction, I appreciate that you're putting that light, this good, perfect little thing into the world. We need more of that. Yes. But I guess my messaging is a little different in my head, because like you said, it's like God takes us through the storm. Well, like he let the disciples through the storm and then he calmed it in the middle of it. He didn't like skirt around it, you know? And I just, light in the darkness is kind of like my theme. And so it's like, I just, yeah.
And I think what I think you're getting at, and what I think you're trying to say is that, like, you find comfort in being able to relate to something and be like, I have been here. I have struggled with this. This is how I've prayed about it. This is how I've thought about this situation, or how I would think in this situation. Yeah. And the author has written it from the more ideal, ideal mindset, instead of where realistically a Christian would be thinking in that scenario. Yeah, you know, and that's am I wrong in assuming that, or like, cause that's kind of what it seems like.
It really made me realize a lot about myself and my reading taste, and also my writing taste as well, that I didn't realize. Okay. And I don't know. I just don't like the happy-go-lucky perfect. Everything always works out. Like, again, happy couple, happy ending, that's fine. Like, yes, do the proposal, get married at the end, that's fine. I'm not complaining about that at all. Yeah. Nobody really wants the couple to break up at the end if you're reading a true romance, right? I'm just, extra stuff of the, like, all the the dad reconciliation really irritated me, for obvious reasons. And it's just like, that doesn't always work out. Sometimes people in real life are just crappy people. And, like, I'm sure we've all had friendships or relationships that didn't work out, and you either drift apart or nobody wants to reconcile, and it just doesn't work out that way, you know?
Well, and there are times when children choose to cut ties with those toxic parents, those emotionally immature parents that didn't receive the help they needed when they were younger, and so now they're like passing on a lot of these issues. And it's like, sometimes when you have grown and you have matured and you have, like, in your physically and mentally and spiritually, it's like sometimes children, and I've even seen children like where they will just cut ties. They will set those boundaries and they cut those ties, and there's no real, like, they have forgiven that person in their heart. They've forgiven them, but they realize, like, I cannot be associated with this person. I'm not going to interact with them. I'm not going to try to build a new relationship with this person because it's not healthy for me, or it's not, you know, for whatever reason. Yeah. And it's like, I can see what you're saying, where it's like, they're not always going to be one big, happy, blended family where everyone is always happy to see everyone. And, you know, I mean, I even see that, like, at school sometimes where kids always confide in things, and it's like you don't always see that.
Yeah. And sometimes either, like you said, sometimes you have to do it to cut that person out for your own sake or for whatever reason. And sometimes there are people who just don't want to change, or they don't want to get help. They act the same way. And you may be the one making effort, but they're not really responding to that.
More of a one-sided effort.
Yeah. And it's just, it's not always going to be happy. And that really grated on me, probably because I related a lot more to Jackson's character. And he set it up like that, where he was like, I can forgive my dad, I can forgive him, but I don't want anything to do with him. And he was arguing with his brother a lot about that. And then at the very end, it was like all of a sudden just he randomly changed his mind and everything was just fine. And I'm like, what happened to the whole thing you had set up, you know? But I think I'm just burning out on the genre. I'm definitely ready for a nice gritty fantasy. And by nice, I mean like just a gritty fantasy. You know what I mean? Like I'm ready to sink my teeth into something nice and gritty and fantasy after this. And I'll just write my own way that I write it.
Have you thought about what book you're going to dive into after this one's finished?
Probably the novella Six Scorched Roses, and then the Serpent and no, that's the first one. Ashes of the Star-Crust, whatever.
Star-Crust King.
It looked like crusted from here. So,
the new one,
King. And then Blood
Book 3 just came out. So I'm so excited.
And then From Blood and Ash. Like I'm literally like, this part of my shelf is literally, if I can actually do this I don't think I can. While I'm on
there you are. You got it.
Okay. Literally like this little section is going to be
that
my
chunk
December.
Right there.
Yeah. Now if I can turn it back. Okay, we're good. So so that's definitely my December TBR.
I'm telling myself that I need to finish this before November ends.
Yeah, same. So our new goals.
So we may need to. So like when we have our birthday celebration time, and then we kind of break off, we need to have like a sit and read. Yeah. Maybe we can have like a time lapse or something, like a check-in together, and then do like a time lapse or something. Because
I actually was going to suggest that. That would
December 1st is Sunday.
Dude, we got to get on this.
I know. I hit 50. Listening more to the audiobook today because I've had a lot of, I had cooked breakfast. I had fixed breakfast with my chocolate chip waffles with peanut butter.
That much left.
So good.
Since I don't have a physical book, I've got that much left.
I had to. Yeah. And so I had to cook dinner. I was cleaning the monstrosity of a turkey incident. Like, oh God, I mentioned that. I talk about it in my check-in too. It was just, I had like, it's like it was a learning opportunity for me because like in the past, either I slept through my alarm or I had somebody here like helping me, walking me through, like helping me do it, or like we're doing parts of it for me. So it's like I hadn't really ever experienced pulling like the neck and the innards, which were in a bag, out. And it's like you learn through experiences, and that's where it's like I could get a turkey ready no problem now because I went through the struggles of trying to figure it out and half panicking, and it's like I was proud of myself. I kept myself from truly going into a panic attacking mode because I was just like I could feel it. Like it was like either I was gonna start like screaming or crying or one of the two, and it was just I could feel it building right there, and I'm like I gotta figure this out. But
yeah, I remember the one year that we did it, and I was the one getting the turkey out, and I was like, I don't even know. I never even knew that you're supposed to pull anything out, and so I got Michael or Mom, and I was just like, I'm done. I can't do this. Like I just kind of bowed out because I went into like I didn't know you were supposed to pull anything out of the turkey, and I don't know what I'm doing. And
and you have to set it. You have to thaw it out. Like start thawing it out like 3 or 4 days in advance because like the inside part will still be frozen, and it's like it's like poultry, so if you don't cook it all the way, it's like foodborne illness and all the food poisoning and all that jazz, and it's just like it's stressful. I don't want to kill anybody like making this turkey. It's like I don't want this to be that kind of Thanksgiving. And so it's like I'm just like, and then I pulled I was trying to pull the innards out from the neck, which if you know anything about turkey, the neck is a lot smaller than the butt part, and it's like the bag rips And so all of the innards parts go spilling into the inside of this turkey. And it's like, I'm pulling on the backbone, thinking the backbone is the neck. And it's not going anywhere because obviously it's the backbone and it's attached to everything else. And it was just, it could have been on America's Funniest Home Videos and it would have won the whole thing. It was such a mess. And I'm just like, and I've got little remnants of like liver and whatnot on my hands. And I'm just trying to video call my grandmother who's getting ready for bed right now. And I'm just like, it's just a whole mess. And I'm like, I should have been doing this at like 2:00, not at like 8:00. That's my problem. Is like, I should have been doing this a lot earlier than what I was.
Yeah.
But it was just, I was a hot mess. And so it's like, I need us to do a check-in because I need to relax a little bit.
Yeah. Honestly, it's fun because it's our November TBR, so it's like perfect to have kind of a Thanksgiving little special. But also, I got these little cute pins at Five Below. They're all kitties. And so I just have to sew them up. So the one
I have not went to Five Below in ages.
I bought one once and it had a little eraser on the back, but these don't erase. So I don't know if these are caps or I'm still trying to figure them out. Because I had one that like they're pens, but you can erase them. So those are cute.
Oh, the erasable pens?
Not these. I can't figure them out. The one that I bought, where did it go? I don't know. I had it around here somewhere where it was like, it had an eraser on it. Oh yeah, this one. The little black kitty. And it actually has an eraser at the bottom, so I can use it to erase things. But these have like a cap on them or something. So,
okay.
Also, since we did check in, I did finish Nano. I know we briefly brought up that, I won't be able to read in November because of Nano. I finished Nano on the 24th. So I have been off for the last 3 days. I didn't finish the book, but I did hit 50K. So now it's like I can finish it in my own timing. So it's fine. But honestly, the reading, like literally being able to read this whole series this month has been helpful, like the reading wind down time. Also, I do have a tiny confession to make. I am reading some stories on, I tried to read a few stories on the Chapters app last night. So I've been kind of like reading those alongside these, but after reading such good books like The Serpent and the Wings of Night and Iron Flame and Fourth Wing and such good writing, the chapter stories feel a lot cheesier than they used to. I don't know if it's just the good writing ever, but I'm like, these are cheesy. Sometimes you're just in the mood for cheese, but I couldn't get through the one book. I just couldn't, but I was kind of like, I don't want to start reading on that app a whole lot more because it kind of deters me away from like reading like actual books. Like, not that those aren't actual stories because people do write them, but I just wanted to make note of that because I was reading a little bit on there, but didn't really find anything good. So my focus was again on finishing this book before the end of November. I'm starting to panic because November's ending soon and I wanted to finish this whole series. I didn't start off my goal, but like after completing my reading, my TBR list for the month, I was like, I need to finish this. Also, Throne of Glass has officially gone back up to my TBR shelf, so I'll grab it back down when I get done with the 6 Scorched Roses, the Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, Bloodguard, and From Blood and Ash. So basically my December TBR list, which may actually grow again because Alicia's kind of getting sort of done with this graphic novel from this YouTuber that we watch, this like true crime. His name is Mr. Ballin, and he if you like true crime, anybody who's watching this, go check out his channel. It's amazing. But he put out this graphic novel that we bought at Walmart, and so I haven't touched it because Alicia's been reading it and I don't want to dual read with her like we did with Fourth Wing. That was really strong. But she's almost finished with it, so if she gets done, then I'm going to add that to my December TBR list. But it's a graphic novel, so I don't expect it to take me too long. I also have a Samson graphic novel up here that I wanted to read, and I wanted to do a separate video about Ryder reads graphic novels for the first time or something like that. So I may do
I have a Macbeth graphic novel that was a little too graphic for the middle school library, so it was gifted to me. And it's like Macbeth, but it's full on comic style graphic novel. It's really cool.
Ooh, that sounds awesome.
Also, if you want to include this, you can.
Okay.
But there are, if you ever like Black Friday shopping on like Amazon and stuff, there are add-ons that you can get for your Chrome, like Chrome extension add-ons that it's called Keepa Keepa, Keepa, but it actually creates I'm going to share this so you can open it and see it too. But it actually graphs out at least a few months back on the price change for items. So this one is like earphones. So they're like Beats earphones. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so if you hover it, the farther to the right you go is the price. So, and Amazon has priced this as their Black Friday deals. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you can go down here and you can drag and say it was $150. No, it used to be $249. But if you go back the very beginning of November, it was only $10 more than it is right now.
Right.
And if you go, like, you can see like the price adjustment in the last few months. And so websites are notorious for boosting the price of things a couple of weeks before Black Friday.
Yeah.
And then dropping them back down later. So if you are on a budget, but you do want to buy a bunch of books, think about some of those things. It's like, because like some Amazon sometimes tries to, or like, if anything, it doesn't have to be books, but it's like, think about that.
Yeah.
Pay attention to that. Like I added this add-on ages ago and I forgot about it, but it's like, it is eye-opening to kind of say that's just marketing. That's how that works.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was thinking about that because we were mentioning Thanksgiving earlier. So I'm like, oh, that might be interesting.
That reminds me, I need to get my Black Friday book deals going on my website. So thank you for that, because I would have forgotten. Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I may do like all of the shorts in a bundle, and then all of the Valiant books in a bundle, and then Immortal and maybe, and just do that. I may do Hunter for free on my website. Sorry, by the time you guys are watching this, it'll probably be over, but yeah, I'll probably do that. I'm lazy. I don't want to do it, but whatever.
It's okay.
Well, I think that's pretty much all we need to discuss for this check-in, and I know we have another video we were going to actually film together for the first time, so that's kind of fun. You also froze. You're good.
Okay.
Yep. So it's the 27th, so we'll probably have maybe two more one final check-in at the end of the month to kind of like assess where we are and where we started.
Yes.
That gave me a song in my head, that Hamilton, like, look at where we are, look at where we started. Is that Hamilton? I don't know. This song popped into my head and I don't know where it's from, but I think it's Hamilton.
No. Yeah. Yes, it is. It is okay. Hamilton. I had to think
now for I need to listen to Hamilton. Okay. Anyways, that was a tangent. So we'll probably do one or tomorrow, probably, for our reading montage late when everybody else is, bed. And then probably one more to like finalize what we completed and what we didn't complete and all that stuff. So yeah. So we will check in with you guys next time. So happy Thanksgiving for anybody watching this. It's happy late Thanksgiving. But for us, it's tomorrow. Yes. So happy late Thanksgiving. Late. I was like, wait, hold on, what? That messed with my brain.
Happy belated Thanksgiving.
Yes. All right, later, guys.
Bye.
Okay, so I think it's the last day of November, maybe, technically, because it's like 1 a.m. My allergies are in full swing. I was around a lot of dogs over Thanksgiving, and on a scale of 0 being not allergic at all, and 4 plus 5, whatever, I'm a 4 plus with dogs. So this is my reality for the next few days. But I got into like a little Minecrafty mood, and I was listening to the audiobook while I was just doing some like repetitive tasks in a realm that my younger cousin and I are doing together. And so I got a decent way through the book. I'm kind of intrigued at what's going to happen with some of the characters, like the buddying romances that's happening. I'm not quite sure how to feel about all of the siblings. Like there's several siblings in this kingdom, I guess you could call it.
There's several of them that you can tell definitely like to stir up drama and are very manipulative, and we're getting more and more glimpses of that. There's some that I'm wanting to say might be more like good and not morally gray, or more like, are not as antagonistic. I don't know how to feel about the father, the main guy, either. I don't know. I feel like he could swing either way. And they made it very plain at the very beginning that he favored certain siblings, certain children over the others. And so you can see that into play a little bit as well. I'm really enjoying reading about the healer. And it's kind of interesting because one thing I really like about reading Assassin's Blade first is that as you go through the story, you're slowly being introduced to all of these characters again for the second time. And it's just really kind of neat. Like, I enjoyed reading about all those characters first because it makes it even more of a surprise when I see them again later in the series. The only downside, though, is that I've been pretty vocal about my frustrations with Empire Storms. And I think a lot of the traumatic experiences that happen in the Assassin's Blade provide that explanation as to why she doesn't really talk about things with those around her very much. And I had some people in the comments of a video kind of going back over that whole point too, and that is very fair. But it's like I wanted to see her grow and mature more as a leader, not as a one-man show type of person. I wanted her to see her more as I'm going to work with this group of people to make some kind of influence or do something, and I wanted to see that transition from being a one-man show to a more of a group effort type thing, and I just didn't really see that in the last book. I have a feeling that will come more into play in the last one, which we're going to go on a little trip later today, I guess. And so I'm going to do a lot of listening in the car, because if I try to read in the car, I'll get car sick. So I'm going to do a lot of listening tomorrow. So that's kind of the plan. Yeah. So see you soon.
Oh,
Hey guys!
hey.
So it's technically December 1st, but this is the final check-in for our November TBR. And from now on in December, we're going to try a new thing where we do live streams every week and then do our check-ins as shorts. So we're going to try something different. So this may be our last big video. But so November, I will pop up I did a picture on Fable for my November, what I read kind of thing, whatever that is, end of the month check-in clip picture thing. So I'll have mine, I'll pop mine up. If Hannah gets me hers, I'll pop it up here. But if not,
Yeah.
But overall, to refresh our memory, my TBR list was Heart of Christmas, just to motivate me to edit it. The first book in this series, Pages of Promise, and then The Serpent and the Wings of Night. And I read all three of these, plus the rest of this series. So I read all of these. I did finish the last book, which I filmed a review on, but I did not check in with you guys on, so we can talk about that a little bit. But I completed my November TBR, which honestly felt really good because I didn't know I was going to. And I did get The Heart of Christmas edited, which was a big thing. And my secondary goal was to complete this series before November, so that way in December I can get back to fantasy. So I'm pretty much good. So that's everything with me.
Okay. I sound nasally, so I apologize in advance. In my individual videos, you can see the quick progression from pre-Thanksgiving with dogs to post-Thanksgiving with dogs, and this is the settling down from that. So and then I walked around with a coat without a coat on, and it was 30 some degrees. So I am just the epitome of poor choice on my allergy when it comes to my allergies.
Also, we did forget to film on Thanksgiving, just to let you guys know. So we didn't actually. We had so much fun doing so much other stuff, but we didn't film. We did do a book haul, which I think I got us sidetracked with watching Queso play Subnautica. That I think we didn't even think about it.
But to be fair, he's amazing. I love him.
He's amazing.
My two main book goals for November. I finished this today, so I'm counting it for November.
Okay, all right.
I'm counting it.
Good job.
I'm counting it. Okay. My two main goals were to get through Empire Storms and Tower of Dawn. And sometimes people like to tandem read these, which reads them at the same time. I chose not to do that. I read Empire Storms first, which I give like a 4 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
I definitely would say Tower of Dawn is a 5 out of 5 star read.
I was going to ask you.
It feels very, I know this sounds horrible. It feels very hopeful. And then the very, very last sneak peek snippet plummeted my mood and put me in a horrible, dreadful mindset for the beginning of this.
Right.
And then I listened to the first, introduction snippets, because they're not actual chapters, and I'm like, oh.
That's funny.
It's just going to be emotionally painful.
Right.
But I liked these two. I honestly think that if I were to read Empire of Dawn while reading Tower of Dawn, I think Empire of Storms. I've done that. All of my videos, I've done that. I don't know how it's gotten me into that. If I would have read Storms while reading Dawn at the same time, I don't think I would have hated Tower of
Empire Storms, Empire of Dawn. You'll get it right in a minute.
Eventually, I'll get
I get what you mean, though.
Either that, or I've done it enough to make it a habit. This is just how it would be.
It sounds like the hopefulness of Tower of Dawn would have offset the kind of dark kind of mood, the other mood of Empire Storms.
And I think, it wasn't really that Empire Storms was dark. It was just
the character
irritating.
Yeah,
it was it felt very predictable. And it felt like there's one particular event that happens towards the end, like a decision that was made in secret that still bothers me. And you see the aftermath in here, and it's still bothering me, and I'm still angry at a character about it, a couple characters about it. So that's where it's like I'm somewhat bitter about this one.
Yeah,
I understand, and I've read people's other fans' thoughts on why a particular character does something, and I understand why she would do it that way, but I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
And I'm very kind of not angry, but just kind of bitter and frustrated about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like more people should have been consulted.
Yeah.
And they weren't.
You mentioned that.
And it's putting those people in a very heartbreaky, sad, depressive state, because they didn't include them in that decision. Yeah. And it's I don't like that.
Yeah.
With that being said, I've ranted about that book too many times. I loved this one. The whole Dawn aspect and the fact that it's a lot lighter than this one is portrayed in the book itself.
That's cool.
It feels a lot lighter.
Yeah.
That being said,
I like the color scheme.
There's so much lore drop in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I am especially with lore drop with the antagonist, learning about them. There's a lot you learn about the enemy in this book, and there's stuff that's revealed in this book about third partiers in this war that you learn about, and I'm oh, okay. So is this going to become, and this is where I'm wondering, is this going to become, this feels more and more like a Battle of the Five Armies moment. And so I'm curious to see.
Yeah. Well, mine, I remember telling you and all of you guys how the last book needed to change things up because the pattern was getting repetitive and I was getting really burnt out on the series.
Did they change it?
Yes. The last one,
Oh,
Perilous
good.
Healing. Perilous Healing was a 5-star read
Yeah.
for me. So it's the only 5-star read out of the whole series, which is amazing. Essentially, like, the main guy, you find out he was captured by this, like, drug lord, and that's where he meets the girl, and they escape together, and they had survived for a while in the jungles as they tried to escape, but she lied to him, and her identity reveal was like a betrayal to him, so they moved on with their lives. That was in the past, and they're both living in the same town, working for the same security team now, and due to her secret, her past identity, that sort of thing, basically, she's the daughter of the drug lord that had taken him and murdered his whole squad, so he obviously had a lot of issues with that. The dad's dead now, but the uncle's coming for her, and basically we get to like almost the 40-50% mark, and they get taken and they're captured for the rest of the book together, and it completely changed everything on their head. And actually there were several parts where I thought the book, okay, this is probably going to be the ending, this is where the other books would have ended it, and then another dramatic thing just kept happening. Cool. And so, and like it got really intense, and there was one part where I was worried he was going to die, because there was one part, minor spoiler, but there was one part where a grenade got thrown into the room and he threw himself on the grenade, and I was like freaking the heck out, like massive, more intense. And to me, like, you know how I've talked about how the suspense, like in the first book and the first few, it was like suspense, romance, and it kind of goes back and forth. Well, this one, it's like a suspenseful situation, and the romance is within that. And actually, I didn't really think about that from like a writer standpoint, that actually feels more perfectly blended, because it's both at the same time. It's not back and forth, which can work too. But yeah, so overall, and then the fun thing was, the main guy, Silas, his cousins have this rescue operation out of Texas, and they're actually the ones to come rescue them. So that was a change up too, because you expected the regular team to come, and she has a second series that's about his cousins and their rescue operation team. And so his cousin Brayden is the first guy in that book, in that series. So eventually I'm probably going to jump to that one. But after 5 books of a military romantic suspense contemporary, I need fantasy. So, which will be in our December thing.
I get that.
But over Thanksgiving, my sister had a birthday. For those of you guys who don't know, it actually fell on Thanksgiving this year. So the next day, Black Friday, we went Black Friday shopping, and we got some books. So we have a book haul for you. I have been so tempted to do a private book haul video, but I gotta wait with Hannah. It'll be so much funner if I wait.
And we stopped at Barnes and Noble on our way to we went like over our own overnight vacation, my parents and I did. And we saw the Sight and Sound production of Miracle of Christmas.
We'll have to talk about that.
Fantastic, by the way. But
I love Sight and Sound theater.
It was just an overnight thing, so I helped my parents set up this Wi-Fi extender, and so they're like, "What's your payment?" And obviously, I'm not going to make my parents pay me money to help them, obviously, but me joking around, I'm like, I want a Barnes and Noble stop. I want a Barnes and Noble stop.
And so works.
they took me to, we got around early. We left a little too early, so we had some time we needed to kill. So we went to Barnes and Noble. So I have one additional book that I will add to I'm adding to my list.
All right. Okay. Well, basically, we got kind of the same too. The third one that's different for me is I got Crown of Midnight, because I still have the original version of Throne of Glass, so this is going to bug me. We have a situation.
Those are like, literally, I have looked at tried to find those on eBay. Those things, like the original covers, are like stupidly expensive. Like, oh my gosh,
$9.99. Bro. Like $9. I got this for less than $10.
I swear it was like $40 or $50 on eBay.
Dang, I've got a gem here. Like, this is great. I love it.
I know. Like, you could like charge people like somebody $40 for that. They would buy it.
That'd be great. So I went ahead, because eventually I am trying to push myself to get through this one. So I went ahead and bought the next one. And then of course this one came out. So me and Hannah both bought The Songbird and the Heart of Stone, which is the third book in the Serpent and the Wings of Night, the Crowns of Naxia series. So I still have to read the novella and book 2, and then I have book 3 now, obviously, so that's fun. And then we were just browsing, and I found it first, and then I looked at it. Look how gorgeous this is. Look at how
It
beautiful
does. It
everyone.
looks very gorgeous.
And then I read the blurb, and look at the art. Oh my gosh, it's so gorgeous.
He looks so gorgeous. I always may look at the guy like he looks so gorgeous.
He looks so gorgeous. And so the blurb, he's cursed, and I'm like, all right, a cursed romance, I'm in. And it's a pretty book, so I couldn't say no.
love a cursed romance.
Yes, so I bought this one as well. So those are the 3 books that I got. I had to restack them here.
So I like same as Joanna. I got Songbird, The Songbird and the Heart of Stone. Also, if you take the book jacket off, it has another very pretty cover, just like this. The King,
I didn't even see that.
The Star-Cursed King one. And the Star-Cursed King hardback also has a really pretty cover.
I didn't even see that. I'm trying not to read the blurb,
that was one of the first things I checked because I knew that the first one had a really pretty back cover.
Yeah. See, my first one is a paperback, so I don't have the one, but the second one I actually
the texture of the pages are different from the last book.
Oh,
that is me being stupidly nitpicky, but I liked the texture of the page too.
Yeah, I'm so curious. I can't read the blurb, so I'm trying not to do that.
Yeah. So I got this one. Yeah, I like the back saying. It says, a kingdom of secrets, a palace of lies, and a curse that could shatter her world.
Oh, that looks good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I love it.
The other one, I have book 2. This is book 3 in the Cruel Prince series. I have book 2, The Wicked King, on my Kindle. And I wanted to go ahead and get book 3 because I've kind of toyed around with the idea of going back and actually rereading book 1 and then reading book 2 and book 3 and kind of diving into it from there because I did like book 1 in this series. I read it right after, like directly after I finished the initial books in the Qatar series. I think the Cruel Prince was one of those books that I read when I was taking a break in Mist and Fury. I think.
Yeah.
No, it was either Mist and Fury or Wings and Ruin. One of those books I paused for. I stopped mid-read. I think it was Mist and Fury. I stopped for a bit. I needed a little bit of a break. I wanted those two. I needed a break, and
I thought it was the third one because that's where I surpassed you.
Third one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it was supposed to be that one, and I read The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I really liked it. I just it kind of put me back into like a Fae mood, which and then in turn kind of
helped you. Yeah.
Pushed me back. It helped me get back into the Nakatar mood, and so it's very unique in the sense that it felt very different from ACOTAR, which I liked. It felt different from ACOTAR, and I remember liking that about it because it was very different. And so I bought The Queen of Nothing, which is book 3 in that series. So I have 2 physical copies, books 1 and 3, and then I have a digital of book 2.
Hey, it works.
But that's okay. And the last one that I got when I went to Barnes & Noble, I saw this gem, and I thought it was a very pretty cover. And I don't remember seeing any books about Mace Windu before. It's called The Glass Abyss. Star Wars Mace Windu, The Glass Abyss.
That's cool.
And the blurb mentions something about it sounds like it takes place right after spoiler alert for episode 1 of Star Wars when Qui-Gon dies.
I forgot to give spoiler warnings for Star Wars because I watched them so much. It's like I never do that. That's funny.
I'm like, to be fair, if you haven't seen it yet, it's kind of on you. So.
It's on you, yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry.
This takes place. It sounds like it kind of takes place shortly after Qui-Gon dies. But it's like about Mace Windu, and I'm like, I like the fact that we're starting to dive into his character more. Like, because I've always found his character fascinating. Yeah. Like in real life, we know he has a purple lightsaber because he wanted purple, and he told George Lucas he wanted purple, and so he got purple. Like, but in the lore of it, there was always that idea of
blending the dark side and the light side,
being like exposure to like both light and dark. And having that kind of like, it's a different kind of balance with like, because you have the gray Jedi that embraces neither light nor dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like Purple is one of those
both.
cases where it's a mixture, like they embrace both. It's like a mixture of both.
Yeah.
And so the back of it says darkness without light and light without darkness. Both are blinding.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought that was an interesting concept.
I've also heard,
and it caught my attention,
since the Ahsoka show, that like the purple is a blend of light and dark, leaning more toward the light, whereas like orange lightsaber, not orange, was it orange? Ahsoka is a blend of light and dark, leaning more toward the dark, and then gray is like neither.
Okay,
according to what I've heard.
Also, this was just a gorgeous cover, nonetheless.
Really,
and so,
at first, I didn't even notice it was Mace Windu, so I love that.
Yeah.
That seems like that's a reflection of his Force ability called Shatterpoint, so I'm interested to see if it delves into that. You'll have to let me know.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm I'm intrigued about this one. So it might be pushed up a little on my TBR a little bit. I do want to actually go back and read the Star Wars, the Obi-Wan book that is now in Legends. So it's not canon anymore, I guess. But like the book Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's what it reminds me of. Yeah. Like this one. Do I have it? I do. Hold on. Okay, so this one reminds me suspiciously of like this one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I want to actually go back and read this because I started reading this ages ago and I just never finished reading it because at the time I wasn't a very skillful reader. Like I wasn't, my reading stamina was a lot shorter than it is now. And my reading stamina back then was horrible. And so I just lost interest very quickly and I just never finished it. So I would like to actually read that one at some point in the future. Mm-hmm. Not at the moment, but yeah, it reminded me a lot of that. Plus, we don't see a lot with Mace Windu, and I was like super excited to see a book about Mace Windu. So I'm like, I want to get more in his head because I read the one about Count Dooku that was in like a script style format, and that one was really cool. I enjoyed that book. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like, I like reading Star Wars novels that dive into certain characters that aren't really the main focus in the movies. I don't know. I like that. So I liked reading the one about Mace Windu. I liked reading the first one in the trilogy about Padme. I haven't read the other two yet. I would like to at some point. Mm-hmm. But I've got I don't know.
I need to actually finish sometime. I started it and never finished it.
And so that's kind of where that was my shopping haul. But yep. And kind of like my thoughts. It was just caught my eye, and I'm like, oh, I like it. Like I could easily see myself diving into that one.
Okay, well, I think that wraps up November. So far, I think I read the 5 books in that series, and then I read this one, and that makes 6, and then if you count this one, that makes 7. So 7 books. I think that's actually the most, because I think I read 6 in it was either March or May, so I think that's the most I've read in a month, which is really good because there's several times when I just didn't read it all this year, so I'm going to see if I add a new way of doing the thumbnail, but since this is on our new channel, I don't know what to do for an outro, but it's a new channel, so please subscribe if you're not subscribed. We do have another video, our October TBR list, that's on my original channel because we didn't know this was going to be its own thing, so go check that out. If I can put it here, I will. I don't know if I'll be able to or not. If not, I'll have
put a link in the description if anything.
Link in the description below if you're curious about our October TBR. Yeah. Spoiler alert, we've kind of failed, so that one's actually kind of funny because we did not do October.
My thought on the TBR list is I don't have to accomplish everything on the list, but I'm restricting myself to only that list. Like, I can't walk up to my bookshelf and stop a book mid-read and put it away and start one of the others over there. Like, I stick to the stack that I've given myself. Yeah. Like, that's my thing. I will buy a book and then I'll shelve it, which I'm sure every other reader is guilty of the same thing. Yep. But then you'll shelve it and then you just won't read it. Like, there are several on my bookshelf right now that still count as part of that. But I have impulse bought the entire Throne of Glass series, so by God, I'm going to finish it, even if I'm worried that I'll need therapy afterwards.
Yep. So okay, Okay,
I only
this
read
and this
2,
one. Okay,
but
let
in
me
my
put
defense,
mine
these 2
fast.
were very large books. So
Yeah. All right. I think I actually may get a good thumbnail out of that. So yeah, subscribe to our new channel. And for the month of December, you guys will be able to do the challenge with us. So we'll be doing live streams every weekend, Saturday or Sunday.
Yes.
We don't know which day.
And
we're going to be doing one.
Joanna and I will both be posting our individual updates as shorts, as reels. Sorry, shorts are Instagram. Reels throughout the weeks and stuff. So be on the lookout for those. And if you randomly see me or randomly see Joanna and it's coming from the same channel, that's totally intentional. So
and to get content out, I may do more. Like if I come up with a book kind of themed one, I may just post it just to keep getting content out there. But yeah, so that's it. I feel weird not saying my regular outro, but we'll see you guys in December. So
see you next time.